Morning, Michael.
Hey, Gary.
How you doing?
Good, busy.
Busy.
Okay, so these are canceled.
Yeah, it sure did. She needs to ask for a raise anyways, Jesus.
I called you. I don't know if you saw it come up. I called and I said, no answer. I called Pam and no answer as well. It was like, I said to myself, maybe I missed something, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
No, I looked for the packet on Sunday.
Yeah, I came Monday morning first
Saturday,
thing.
The thing that happens is, Pam's the only person who puts permits into our permitting system.
Right.
I don't know how to do it.
So, she hasn't had the time to train me because we've been running flat out for the past year. So, without Pam, the permits didn't get in. So, I wasn't just going to go searching through her desk looking to try to get all the permits, stuff them in vanilla folders, and put them down because then something's going to get
No,
lost.
right, and
So-
get mixed up too. You end up putting the wrong
Right.
stuff in there.
It's
And,
ironic that Winston stopped.
Yeah, that's how it goes. That's how it goes. This is why we need to respect Pam more.
she's got all my respect.
I'll tell you right
Oh,
now.
yeah.
I started looking at the stuff that's coming in. There's a lot of stuff.
Hey, how come we're compadres here, huh?
Pam is the one that
Putting
sets
on
this
the,
now. I don't know what's happening.
Girls on that side, guys on this side? Is
No, you got Andrew.
Not quite, huh? Okay.
Andrew still here?
Yep. Andrew's in the office with Pam. She's chatting about one thing. I gotta find one more application.
What's up? Anything good?
I guess Conclave is gonna get pushed back.
Huh?
I guess Conclave is gonna get pushed
He's
back.
right here. Yeah, he
Oh, okay.
pulled out.
He pulled out.
Not even pushed back. He'll come visit us again in the future.
Good.
Well, listen,
That's something.
that's not going away.
What's he thinking?
I don't know. You know, you read up on all this stuff and everything. I don't know.
I mean, there's a lot there too.
There's a
Did you
lot.
ever read that judgment? I read it
yeah.
a couple times.
I
There's
did
a
too.
lot there.
Yes, they don't put anything in no fucking front.
Right.
So, where are you?
Wow.
I don't know. So everything's going good? Business
Yeah.
still booming?
I don't work too much anymore, but yeah. Yeah, I gotta look at the numbers. The numbers are good.
Good. Well, you don't get down to the office.
No, I'm done. My son runs it.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, that's
he's
cool.
actually been running it. The day-to-day stuff for a few years. Actually, since I bought the place at the lake.
Excellent.
You know what happened? Bought the place at the lake, and we closed in December. In the spring, we started doing the construction and taking down trees. And I was up there all day.
Yeah, no.
I didn't want to be down at work, so that's how it worked out. Like, for like 3 months, I was in 20 hours a week, and it cut it down to 10 hours a week, and then we made some changes, got rid of the Vegas operation, and they don't need me. Well, a couple things happened, Gary. You know, we were looking at a place in Florida. A rundown company, beat up, been run by the grandson that just beat it into the ground, but a beautiful location, right on one that I think Route 17, a major road, and nice, built for moving and storage, maybe 60 or 80,000 square feet. Another shop, beautiful. I wanted it. Now, Jeff didn't. My son didn't. Our CFO didn't. My wife didn't. And I was like 60, 61,
How old are you?
66.
66. Yeah, a couple years younger than I am.
So,
Here's an end.
well, you know, so I went in low and I didn't get it. And it kind of made me realize that's what I do. That's my part of the job, you know, building the company.
Right.
And if you don't want me to, well, I'm not gonna go back and dispatch the trucks and,
Right.
you know.
Right. Yeah.
So this is where you
Yeah,
want
I'm
to
not
be.
backing up.
Yeah, right, exactly.
That's where I am with my company now. I got a couple of good guys in there, they wanna grow it. I'm the only owner, because my son-in-law's really involved, my son-in-law passed away.
Oh,
Oh,
You
yeah,
know-
48 years old, had a widowmaker heart attack on my job, right, working with my grandson. And my grandson was the one that gave him CPR, and he didn't make it, he died right there. This is last year.
oh, Gary, that's sad, I'm sorry.
And that was,
Wait
so
a
he
minute,
was,
I thought that's a different one that was gonna run the,
the bar?
The
Bar's
bar,
the
the
restaurant. I got $2, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Bar. No,
that's the other one.
This one has worked for me for 25, 30 years in the construction industry. And I was just making a transition to bring him in and a couple other guys, you know, kind of stepped back and got thrown back into it. I'm still, I had to hire another guy and see if I can maneuver this thing out. So 1st of July, I said I'm taking Mondays and Fridays off. I've taken 2 Fridays. It's not working out quite like I thought.
You know, and I'm lucky my son wants me, but.
Yeah,
Well, actually,
I
he
got
doesn't.
guys that wanna run it, but, you know, they're not, your son, being
Right.
family, okay, could still sway off the course, okay, could run off the track. Until you really got a good confidence in these people saying, okay, we're buying a $400,000
Yeah,
D6 or
yeah,
something
yeah,
of that nature.
Yeah, and you gotta co-sign it.
You know what I mean?
You gotta
I don't know,
guarantee it,
man,
right?
you know, and the other problem with it is, we're into jobs like, you know, like the power plant down is a $34 million job. Okay, well, all of a sudden they quit on you. You're standing there going,
Yeah, with the
I don't know what the
hand.
frick is going on, you
Yeah.
know, you had a mutiny or something like that.
Yeah.
That's a scary thought,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Because the way people are today, stealing people, every bit of nature. So
And when you're younger, you can recoup for that.
when you're younger,
Oh, God, gee,
no, I don't want to, I don't want to go back there.
You gotta play
Just
little
like you said,
hockey.
I'm not going to dispatch trucks.
No. And that was the thought in Florida too, is like, I'm too old now to make a mistake. You know, 10,
Right, I
15
got
years
what I
ago,
got.
yeah,
I
10,
can't
15
recoup
years ago, I could have made a mistake and come back,
Come
you
back.
know, made, whatever, maybe,
That's how we are. You know, I'll tell you a little story. When we were buying your house, we were buying Luciano's house on the point.
Okay.
We had the house my daughter lives in, and then the yellow house on the point.
Okay.
We had-
Where's house your daughter? I thought it was the same one.
No, my daughter lived in the house that we had,
Okay.
right? But we were gonna buy the yellow one. The yellow one, right on the
Lochner's?
block.
Okay.
We were gonna buy it, just had it all signed, all done.
No, we'll find, it's
Bruce
around.
checked, my wife called me.
I didn't find it in
Oh,
the files on my desk, but it's gotta be here somewhere. It might just be tucked in something
Maybe,
else.
right? So, Bruce, is there some?
No, I mean, it's
I
just,
got one client up there that's.
it's just gonna
jumping
be,
for joy 'cause he's buying a house and I got you.
I emailed, George Cotter. George Cotter provided that assurance. Jay wasn't able to get his survey
He's a
updated.
great guy. He's got me out a couple.
No, he said he'll move the
I had a
the boat lift to the other side, so there's no question. Yeah, I can do so.
5 years ago. And got all jacked up on crystal meth. Oh, boy. And,
How you doing?
how are you? And, back in New York City, took out a whole bunch of cars, ended up crashing into Kennedy. On national news.
Oh, boy.
Bruce was there Saturday morning with his girlfriend.
No, he's been great with me.
Yeah, he's
To a public hearing
Come on, Russ.
for
Right.
Good, yourself? Everything with an X next to it has been either withdrawn, or.
I didn't get to Rollins, I don't know if you did.
So after that, we
I
have
called
the
him. I
discussion.
called him.
caught
Hey, no,
Paul.
I called him at 2
Kill me.
o'clock.
There's a
Yeah, I
resident.
called him at 2
there
o'clock.
is
It's
a-
like,
you know,
Thank God he
resident
shows up
properties.
now then.
He's usually here. There's really not much to report, you know.
he had something else going on this afternoon, he left early, so what can I say? I can't control that. I wanna wait till Wednesday because something could change.
Right.
You're welcome.
Or Friday,
Yeah, I don't think much changes.
Boy, this bridge down here is really gonna scramble up the fire of this cars and stuff.
yeah, I guess they go on K Street.
Coming in, yeah, they're coming in from one side, that's gonna be a hazard.
Yeah, that is, that is.
Ah, perfect. Thank you.
Have a good morning.
Hi, Jackie. Sorry.
I know.
Apologies.
This was the best summer September.
I think so. It's just
I'm
we're
in
out of
the
water
past.
now. What do you say there, Steve? How you doing? Good. Hello, Jackie.
Hello, hello.
Yes,
We've switched
boy left.
seats. We've switched
I
seats.
need
Steve,
Shit. I don't come for 1 month and they switch seats.
I know, I don't know what you're doing.
I know, Russ. Doing yourself? Staying cool?
I'm scared of minutes and I have the shoulders.
Yeah, I hear you.
Did I hear that right? Was it 40 feet?
But now it's over.
In 2 years?
I think this weekend's.
Yeah, it's supposed to get over again. I'm kind of used to it now.
You know, they keep saying
This guy,
so many
Since the
things
creation
to
of
do.
time, people have
after
tried
all
to
this,
create
the withdrawal
oasis in the
gets
desert.
withdrawn?
It can't be
Yeah,
done.
I got an email this afternoon.
It's a desert there,
It is
and
a
they want to
desert.
grow palm trees and
Oh, we were having such
lawns.
fun.
Not gonna happen.
It can't be done.
I called this, Emmanuel, I said, do I have to bring my whole pile of shit tonight? She said,
Oh,
no.
we were making such progress.
I just don't want to keep carrying this stuff.
The last time I was here, I was glad that nobody had anything to say. I was ready to say, we gotta get done with this. I'm sick of you coming in here and figure it out amongst yourselves.
The, farming, the true.
Yeah. And this looks like nothing.
That's a new one. That'll be right onto the agenda. Yesterday. It's a minor thing, but it's a change.
I organized my floor.
Yeah,
Files better. That's because.
Sam, so good to see you.
Nice to see you. How are you?
We were worried about you.
These were just submitted by Mr.
Like
Stricker.
Jerry
Am I
said,
okay?
Winston shut down for
I'm
4
gonna
days.
put them on your desk now. That's yours.
Close up the doors, roll up the sidewalks.
I know, no, I gave it to you. How you doing?
Doing pretty well on yourself?
There was an application I was
You had a talk with the
presented agenda
looking back my
that
email, I must have missed
came
it.
in.
I don't, I'm off on my agenda. I can't go to the
It's just one application, before we get there, I would like to.
The whole town went through.
Yeah, I got.
Miss Winstead herself.
Doing all right?
Oh, good, I wanna see how this shakes out.
This dress is up.
You're first.
I didn't realize you could pursue it. I just heard it. That's all I heard.
There's maintenance. I think so. And I need this hat. Well, needs it. It's down to
Smart.
It's got to happen this fall. You know, the water corridors, I'm gonna do some of that stuff to be maintained. Right? Yep, yep.
I think they're putting an extension on the back of it or something.
No, I think it's going. It's no longer cripplingly hot outside. So I'm simultaneously very happy and deeply concerned that this means the end of summer is coming early this year. So
They're moving it from.
yeah,
Hartford Avenue over to Wednesday.
I get out in the thunder.
Time.
We may have to wait a minute.
I hope so. I hope it's nice through October. Because I'm getting married on the 2nd of October, which means I really need it to be nice on that day. I don't think, it's not to me that unique family is Halloween. I mean, if you drive, like, in my luck, they're gonna come in and we're gonna get snow on October.
We got married at the end of October. It's a nice one.
That's good.
guessing how nice it's gonna be.
Yeah, I mean, my house is green. Hey, the water comes out of the grass takes a little bit over, the rest of it goes back in the lake.
Yeah, I called you right after.
Something happens with it.
The legal ad should be read.
2208?
Okay, yeah.
No, that's,
Yes,
Sure.
we will do that. Just want to make sure.
and this is a big deal.
Jamie, ready?
They have adjustments.
Go ahead, take your time. All right, it's 7:02 or 3 on August 6th, 17th. I'd like to call the Inland Wetlands Watercourse Commission to order. Roll call, Stephen Molinelli, Chair, present. Russell Davenport, Vice Chair.
Present.
Jackie Mulvey, Secretary. Andrea Kowicki.
Present.
Jeff Lippincott.
Present.
Mary Ann Marino.
Present.
Leanne Marvin.
Present.
Gary Paganelli.
Present.
And we have a vacancy. With us is Pam and Michael, our agent. And I'd like to seek approval for the July 20th, 2022 regular meeting minutes. There a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for June 15th, 2022 regular meetings.
I'll second it, but any changes?
July.
July, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Thank you.
It's August.
mine says June 15th, but,
Wrong minutes.
yeah, no, I get that. Thanks, sorry about that.
I'll second the motion. Are there any changes to the minutes? I didn't see anything. Those in favor of approving the minutes, please show your hands. All right, it's unanimous. Thank you. Under agenda review, I'd like to include one item. We had a subcommittee made up of Gary, Mary Ann, and Leanne, Andrea, that reviewed some of the forms that we're using, and they made some suggestions. I'd like to put it on our agenda as business for next month. Okay, this way we know we're going to talk about it.
Did anybody have any comments today or anything after reviewing? No?
But for the next meeting.
Yeah.
I will for the next.
Thank you.
Okay,
One more thing, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Application 22-35 came in yesterday. It's at 408 East Wakefield Boulevard for the relocation of a proposed propane tank. We passed that out. It should be on your desk as of today. We would just like to add that to the end of new business, if you will.
Okay,
as
thank you.
Item E.
just bring it up again at the end of new business, please. Okay, we have several public hearings tentatively scheduled. The first one is application IWWC 22-08. The applicant is James McTeague, and the owners are Stephen Heffer and Helena Sultan. The location is 212 West Wakefield Boulevard, and the public hearing is going to talk about the restructured residence and decking, new walks, and retaining wall.
And before the public hearing gets going, let me just read the legal ad into the record. Notice is hereby given that the Winchester Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission will hold a public hearing at their regular meeting on Wednesday, August 17th, 2022 at 7 p.m. to be held in person at Winchester Town Hall, 338 Main Street, second floor, P. Francis Hickstrom, to act on the following applications: IWWC 2208, applicant James McTeague, owner Stephen Heffer and Hena Sullivan, 212 West Wakefield Boulevard, reconstruct residence and decking, new walls and retaining walls. IWWC 22-14, applicant owners Michael Gonzalez and Desiree Gonzalez, 524 East Wakefield Boulevard, and install dock. IWWC 22-15, applicant owners Michael Gonzalez and Desiree Gonzalez, 522 East Wakefield Boulevard, install lift. At this hearing, interested persons may appear and be heard, and written communications will be received. Copies of the above application are on file for public inspection of the Planning and Community Development Office dated Winchester, Connecticut, this third day of August 2022. Stephen Molinelli, Chairman. It was published in the Republican American on August 4th and August 10th, 2022. With respect to this application, I'm sure you're just gonna acknowledge that the other applications have been withdrawn, but the 212 West Wakefield Boulevard certificate of mails have been received for the record, serving as evidence that notice was provided to the abutting property owners.
When
In the file.
they're in the file.
Yeah.
Would you please identify yourself?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jim McTighe with Arthur Howland Associates, professional land surveyor. I'm here to represent Stephen Heffer and Hina Sultan, the owners of 212 West Wakefield Boulevard. Some of you may recall, back in May, I was in front of you. They have this waterfront parcel with this house created prior to zoning. The handout that I gave you, boathouse history and current photographs, we can walk through it real quick. So you can see that the year the house was built was 1923. Over the years, additions were put onto it. They added a second story in 2004. They added the deck and railings. They put a balcony on the second floor. A certificate of occupancy was issued for the residents. Here's an old undated photo of, at one point, when the house was, prior to the second floor being added, they jacked it up, and it's probably when the steel was put on. The following photo is a current photo of the way it looks today. It's very unique in that the lower level extends out further than the first floor, just a little bit. And then in this next photo here, the building sits on 3 existing piers, one at each corner and then one in the middle here. And there's a steel structure underneath. And our structural engineer, Kevin Archer, has done a report, and we've submitted it. And your town consultant, Tom Grimaldi, has reviewed it, and they both concur that the foundations are decrepit and need to be replaced. And you can see here in the other photo that this middle foundation is not even touching the steel anymore. And then you can see here that the steel is all corroded and rusting in the last photo. And so all we're asking to do is to replace in kind what is there today in regards to the residents. It is not getting, we're asking for a small addition on this side. We're going through ZBA for that. It's a first floor addition for some utility sheds, for a utility room, a garbage room, and a little storage room. I'll show you on the architectural plans in a minute. And we're just replacing, it's a 2-story deck with stairs. In the previous application, we had a wall over here on the west side that returned. We have eliminated that. We've eliminated, it was 12 feet of wall here, it's 5.8 feet of wall here. And then on this side, beyond the stairs, there's 8.4 feet of wall and 9.6 feet of wall that we have eliminated. We've reduced the lake wall by 20.4 feet. In addition, we've eliminated the side walls of 15.4 feet.
Excuse me, is this all depicted on this new plan that we got in this
Yes.
packet?
Let me go to the architectural plan for a second, so you can see what this place is gonna look like. A lot of thought has been put into this. And so, we're seeking a variance to add these 3 utility sheds right here. But essentially, the first floor is 1 room with a deck around it. The lower level is a storage room with a utility room, washer and dryer, little utility room, with a deck around that. And the second floor is gonna be basically like a 1-room sleeping room with built-in beds. And we're gonna come in through a gate. We're proposing a wall along the street here. You can see here, we got a wall along the street here, which is gonna be at grade at the street. There's gonna be a fence in front of it. And it's gonna be at grade here. There's not gonna be a wall here. The architect put this asking for a low seawall of 3 feet, no higher than 3 feet, with stairs to get down to the water. Currently, the property is all slope. It's about a 25% slope. It's large riprap, 6 to 8 inches in size. You can't even walk on it. It's inaccessible. It's completely unusable. And so we're requesting, as part of this application, is just to allow us to have a small seawall here with a set of stairs down to the lake. This wall will be a retaining wall. It will retain the street. We're dropping the grade. It'll be about 3 feet high here, and it gets down to nothing over here as the grade drops. And we're asking for 360 square feet of lawn area to create a small little usable yard for the enjoyment of the residents. On the side areas, it currently is sloping with riprap, in this area here as well too. We are proposing to plant river birches on both sides. We're gonna plant river birches in the riprap and put the riprap back. Same over here, we're gonna plant 3 river birches and put the riprap back. We're gonna have a small utility pad here for a generator. There's another utility pad here for for the AC unit. And we're gonna be burying a 500-gallon propane tank here. The foundation design, so the house, okay. Again, we're not building this wall. No one consulted with me. This section wall is not being built. It is not on my plans. However, the structural engineer, in order to hold the house up, needs a piece of foundation that's 1 foot wide by 8 feet long here, 1 foot wide by 8 feet long here. The remainder of the residence will sit on shore here. He needs a little stem wall here to make this stable. And then we just have some return walls here that'll be at grade. You won't even see these. And then we have the seawall here down to a set of steps. This will be a retaining wall here. Both of these walls are less than 3 feet tall. They comply with the town standards. They will be engineered, although they don't require to be having a building permit because they don't exceed more than 4 feet. But we are engineering them nonetheless. We're just asking for this small little lawn area for the benefit of the owners to have some place that they can, portage their kayaks in and out of the property. The purpose of, we're gonna have a little gate here so that we can get kayaks in and out. And we have the required view shed here. Your Highland Lake requires a 9-foot view shed. We meet that standard here on this side so that people can still see the lake as they go by. We've eliminated the seawall here in the return and the seawall here in the return. Also, the increase in runoff is de minimis, and Highland Lake can absorb it without any effect to anybody. Do you have any questions?
To get into a little bit, I see I know the property, I can see what you're doing there and what you're kind of creating. But you're not really increasing the lot in a sense. The slope that goes down into the water is still that, 15 feet. You're just essentially putting a wall in front of it and backfilling it, which may be a benefit to drainage.
We're cutting here.
Right.
And just filling slightly here.
Right.
There's a section.
Yeah, but you're changing the you're changing the elevation, right? I mean, you've got a flat area in there.
This will be the lakeside view of the residence.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, so we'll have a small, low retaining wall here with the stairs, and then another retaining wall at the street, and then the fence in front of it. Small fence here, slight return on the wall here. This wall is not being constructed. That is not being constructed.
Across the front, is there just 2 large piers on each corner, or is there a full
Currently, right now,
foundation?
there's 3 concrete piers
Right.
holding up the residence, and the middle one has sunk, and it's not
Right.
holding the residence up anymore. And all the steel is rotten.
Right, so across the front though, is it a poured concrete wall? Like,
On the front, on the street side, it's gonna be a full.
No, I mean in the water side.
The water side, no,
Those are just 3 piers.
it's
you're
gonna be
doing.
just these two.
Okay, I didn't
The new
see.
foundation is just it,
Right, okay.
this is on the high ground, and the only portion that's in the water is this 1 by 8 foot section here. And the means of how we're gonna construct that is we're gonna do a coffer dam. This orange line here is the coffer dam and also a turbidity curve. It's gonna extend out into the water here, over and back. In the second handout that I gave you, this 2-page thing, this is a coffer dam. This is the industry standard for protection of any water body during construction. This is the latest and greatest for construction today. Divers go in and put these braces in. They then lay in this fabric membrane on the lake side. The water holds the membrane down and in place, and then you pump out behind the coffer dam to create a dry work area so we can excavate down and install the footings.
And then where does that water go? The pumped out.
It goes back into the lake, it's clean.
So you have somewhere you must have a spec for a filtration system for that, right? I didn't dig through them.
When the coffer dam is installed, the water between the coffer dam
Right,
and the
you're
shore
just-
is clean, we're just gonna pump it back into the lake.
There's
There's
a
no
problem.
land, there's no
Until you
land,
get to the
there's no
mud
disturbance of the lake bed
Until the
the rest of it.
construction starts.
until we get a dry work
Construction,
area.
right, yeah,
Then we will excavate only for the footings for the 2 piers that are gonna be holding the house up. And then once we get over here, we need the footings on the high ground. We're outside of the lake, but we need to dig it down 3.5 feet for frost protection.
My initial
do that
concern,
by-
I'm sorry, you go ahead.
Is the idea the excavation is gonna be by hand?
No, it'll be with an excavator. They will stage, on shore and reach out. This area will be dry, and they will be able to excavate, and some material will be stockpiled here. Our stockpile, the same people who own this property, the Heifer Sultans, also own this property. Our staging and stockpile area is gonna be this driveway. They have 2 driveways on this property. And this driveway is gonna be our staging area, dumpster, material delivery, storage, in this area. There's gonna be very little stockpiling of material. Any material excavated is gonna be hauled off-site. Any material used is gonna be used immediately. They're gonna work this very efficiently for the construction sequence in order to make this happen.
Yeah, no, I see, so one of my main concerns, I see the scope of work. I come from a construction background, so I can very clearly see what's going to be done. My biggest concern, I think probably a lot of these people's concern, is lake bed restoration after this all goes down, right? Because anything behind that fence, that wall, right, now becomes a construction site. No matter what you say, if you're gonna try to keep the tractors in or the bulldozers in a little, it's a construction site behind that wall. So my concern is, what is the spec, or what can we do to
We're gonna restore the
reclaim
lake
it?
bed to its pre-existing condition.
Right.
In addition to that, because of the seawall, we're proposing angular boulders be placed in front of the seawall to deflect the waves. So
Right,
that there's
okay.
no impact to any other properties, on the lake. All along the seawall and also underneath the residence, at its foundation line. To this point here.
Right, so,
And then the lake bed, any disturbance we do, we will put back to its.
so
pre-
that, I think I feel like we need to see some sort of spec, because how do you put that back to as is? I mean, do we inspect it before? Right, what I'm saying is, do we inspect it before, and then afterwards, we have a spec to go to that says, okay, well, this is a hard spec, this is what you give a contractor, your site excavator, he's gonna put that back exactly that way. See, we don't know, because his version of it could be gravel or sand, we don't know,
From what
I
I
think we
can
need to see a spec.
From visiting the site, from what I could see, it's a rocky lake bed.
Sure.
There's no vegetation. And by the time you get out to the corners of the deck, it's about 8 to 10 feet deep. So as soon as we put in the coffer dam, we can all then inspect what it looks like and take photographs. And at the end of the project, we can all put it back that way as we exit the site.
That's a start.
So, you say it's 8 to 10 feet off the end of that. In one of these pictures,
10 feet deep.
Right, and one of these pictures of the original
This is,
boathouse.
yep,
It looked like it was dry, and
that's
that's from
every
across.
5 years, they pump, they drain down Island Lake.
Not 8 to 10 feet.
Every 5, this is one of those years that they drain the lake down.
Okay. Then
This
it's
is an
not
old
10 feet.
photo.
Then it's not 10 feet.
This is an old photo, okay, and there's no scale to this, okay?
That's what kind of
And so
caught my
this has
attention.
been jacked up, so somebody can work under here. Okay, these are, you know, stanchions to hold this house in place, so that the steel structure could be put in place that you see in the previous photos.
Okay, that doesn't look like it's 8 to 10 feet. That looks like it's the normal drawdown of what?
See the
6, 7
concrete
feet?
piers? Those are the exact same concrete piers that are in the later photos.
Okay, and that looks like that was probably done on the deep drawdown,
Yes,
okay, which isn't 10 feet.
It's 5 feet.
The deep drawdown as
feet, like
proposed
8
for this coming year will be, not this coming year,
in
but this
modern
coming cycle,
times,
it's 8
it's
feet.
5 feet. Who knows what they did back when this photo was taken?
We just approved a drawdown procedure for the next 5 years, and I think in 2 or 3 years from now, the drawdown is gonna be 8 feet, and then it's gonna recover quickly based on the input of water in a natural state. The gate will be closed at that point. I have a couple of questions.
Okay?
One, you're saying that, and we're saying that there's absolutely gonna be no machinery on the lake bed.
There is gonna be excavation.
There's not gonna be any machinery on the lake bed.
There will be an excavator in this area to dig the foundations.
It
It's
will
just
not be,
these-
because that's against our rules. You can't put a machine on the lake bed,
Okay?
so,
Then we will stage it on shore and get a larger machine that can extend out, or we'll hand dig.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
okay.
think hand dig would be our preference. That's
can
what
hand
most
dig.
people do.
let me follow up my thoughts.
Sure.
Hand digging is gonna create a massive problem, because the deeper you go on into the lake bed and below the lake bed, and you're going to go down 4 or 5 feet, 7,
3.5 feet below the lake bed.
3.5 feet, 4 feet below the lake bed, you're gonna get water coming up through that hole you're digging. And the hole is gonna get wider as you dig it. You just can't go straight down and in a 15-inch circumference or whatever. It's gonna get wider and wider as you get to the 3.5 feet. So that's gonna present the problem, and if you hit ledge,
Yeah, if we hit ledge, it'll actually make things easier, because then we can just anchor to the ledge.
if you hit ledge, that could be a solution or not a solution, but you won't know that. So the one thing that you have to be clear on, and the applicant has to be clear on, is that our policy forbid any machinery on the lake bed.
Okay?
A thought.
Wait, you were having another, oh, no, he's.
A thought. In the past, we have applications come before us where from land, from either property or the street, they can reach over and pound something into the lake bed, so that there's no machinery on the lake bed, but a girder is going into the lake bed itself. And in the past, docks have been attached to that pound-in steel. Pile, so, a pile driver, so to speak. That may be a better alternative than hand digging or trying to go out there with a scoop.
That
It's
could
just
probably
a
be done
thought.
without the coffer.
What's that?
Could that be done without the coffer dam?
I don't, again, it can be, in the past it has been, but, you know, that's an approach that's been used in the past. Moving away from the building itself, from Wakefield Boulevard to where that first wall that you want to put up, the first retaining wall along the street,
Yep.
do you own that property?
Yes.
Okay?
All of this work is on our property. We're
Okay.
not doing any work within the town property other than reconnecting the sewer line.
Including the right of way, because I think they have
Yes,
some
you-
right of way, don't they? that-
Yeah, the property line is right here, and our fence and retaining wall is on our property. We will not be building anything on town property.
What's on the other side of that fence toward the word Wakefield?
Currently, right now, this is a gravel area. This is a gravel area, it's like a slight little driveway. And the edge of the road is right here.
the edge of the road is under the word Wakefield with that line?
The double
Edge
line?
of the road is right here.
Oh,
The broken line.
that doesn't appear to be depicted that way from here.
Yeah, this is the edge of the pavement.
Just remember that the tape needs to pick up every
You can
conversation.
see in the photograph here, the existing conditions.
What page are you referring to?
Halfway through the history photos. The second photo in the package.
So where those little, is this the picture you're looking at?
Yes.
For the commission, the picture says current boathouse, October 28th, 2021. We see the road, then we see a little row of little trees or little shrubs between the street and those shrubs. That's town land.
Yes.
So you're not requesting anything,
No, we're removing this gravel, and this will just be replanted with grass.
but that's town land.
Yes.
So you're removing the gravel on town land
Yep.
and putting some kind of soil down or gravel, a basin, whatever.
Restoring it for lawn.
Michael, is that permissible?
Well, not without the permission of the Board of Selectmen. It's beyond this commission's power to grant the ability
That's
for
right.
any private resident to conduct work on town land. That has to be done through the town manager and the Board of Selectmen. I'm not saying it can't be done, it's just this commission, it's beyond the call of this commission's authority. So
Right.
that's not
Okay.
within the consideration here.
We will seek whatever permission we need to do that,
Yep.
and we will be improving the situation from current conditions.
Are you taking down these trees that are there?
There are two minor trees, an 8-inch oak and a 6-inch pine. However, we are replacing 8 trees. We got 3 river birch here, 3 river birch here. We're doing and 2 ornamentals, 3 to 5 foot here. In addition, we're also putting shrubbery down in here, and they're going to squeeze in as many plants as they can around the site.
So exactly how many feet between the wall and the street?
The fence is gonna be on our property, at the property line. And then behind that is gonna be the retaining wall. So the fence is about 3 or 4 inches. If my pen is the property line, we're gonna build a fence, and then we're gonna build a wall on our property. There will be no encroachment on the town land.
The wall's gonna be on the lake side of the fence.
Yes.
And you're not looking, because there would need to be an application for any kind of regulated activity on town property. So for the purposes of this application, you're not looking to replace any of the existing conditions, like, right? I mean, you understand the scope of your application is not to replace that gravel with.
We're removing that gravel.
Not, the approval tonight would not include that, because
The
that's.
approval tonight would not include anywhere within the town right of way.
Correct. You'd have to return for any improvements on the town's property.
Gotcha.
After getting whatever necessary approvals you need from the Board of Selectmen.
Were you made aware, I hope you have been, of our independent engineer's review of this
Yes.
proposal prior to what you're
Yes,
looking
I've
at?
answered all of his questions, and we got a response today from Tom Grimaldi, and he only had 2 concerns. One, he just wanted the downspouts on the house to disperse onto the land versus the lake. There's new comments. I addressed all of his comments before, and all of those have disappeared. There's new comments today.
We have that here, right?
You have a printout of an email exchange between Tom, Michael, Jim, and myself, with the last email being the top page, it's 8 pages, front, back, 4 pages. With the last one being from Tom Grimaldi, concurring that the best alternative for construction would be during the deep drawdown, as turbidity curtains would not be required, and the timing would reduce potential sedimentation issues within the lake. An 18-inch sediment log could be placed on the lake floor during a deep drawdown. And just for the record, as far as the 7-foot drawdown is scheduled for
25, probably.
you just approved that recently,
Yeah.
I think last month at the meeting, 2025, 2026.
We are looking to seek all approvals and start construction the second that you drop the lake level in November. we
Of
would like
this
to-
year.
Of
Of
this
this
year.
year, we would like to start construction and do our construction before it gets cold and pull out the lake and restore everything before winter.
It's only a 3-foot draw.
I'm aware.
You may have,
We are hiring a company called Porter Dam. They're out of Maine. This is all they do is these coffer dams.
I'm not, yeah, I mean, I don't doubt the technical ability of to coffer that dam off. I mean, like we said, our biggest concern, or one of my biggest concerns is I don't have a hard spec on the restoration of that lake bed, or a spec that says, you know, that we can't use. I just feel like what's behind that, just like this picture on Lake Warmog, I mean, behind this is behind that water is a construction site.
That is a
Would-
boathouse.
Right, well,
had
this
two
is,
concrete piers coming.
my fear is that is gonna look just like this, and we don't have a spec that says how to replace the lake bed. You know, we don't have, I don't know if there's other, you know, lake bed specialist type engineering specs that we could get, or something else that would show how we're gonna put that back. I mean, because we also have to change, right, we've also talked about that there isn't gonna be equipment on it, so I feel like it's really changed, a lot has changed from this original, I think probably for what you're seeing, your original construction scope now has changed quite a bit, right, essentially,
We've reduced our construction code considerably.
within this
By
conversation.
elimination of the end walls and the sea walls, the
Right.
sea walls and the end walls, and also the original, structural design was gonna be an L shaped. But
Right,
now
but
it's just one little
I
piece
see
of
that,
8
but-
feet and one little piece of 8 feet.
I mean, in our conversation right now, your scope of, you're not your scope of construction, but how you're gonna construct it has already started to change, correct? Because I think upon looking at this picture of the Lake Warmog and looking at that, I think it was thought that you would just be able to use that, and rightly so, to use that whole area in front of there as, you know, you drive a mini down there, a mini excavator, a little treaded excavator, and start your digging and working your whole wall in standing on the lake bed forward, which one would naturally do, right? I mean,
We will
that's the
hand-
easiest
we
way to
will
do it,
hand
but
dig
now
these.
that has all changed,
We will
right?
hand dig these.
Right.
Have you given any consideration by actually looking at the site when the water is down only 3 feet? as
Yes,
to-
I was out there last November.
And how far out does it actually go?
How far, what are you asking me?
From where the existing house is now with those steel, or the support beams underneath the house now,
Yeah.
to where you have to replace those support structures,
Yeah?
is there water there?
Yes.
There is water, so you're relying on this dam to make it work this year?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I hear you.
I can speak in defense of the dam, we use it quite
Right.
often. So, the distance that the dam is out from your excavation, what is that distance you have?
It's gonna be minimal. We're gonna start, here, and just enough, 8 to 10 feet out.
Right.
Just enough past here to come back and return here.
So that's what we're talking about, 8 to 10 feet of lake bed.
It's generally about where I'm showing the line on the plan.
How, I guess my biggest concern is the quality of the water. You have a rain, you have anything, you have open construction, you're gonna get cloudy water.
Any dirty water in this area will be filtered and with means and methods for erosion control. We have a whole erosion control plan here, and any water will be filtered before it's released anywhere.
It's showing going into a, stone thing with a filter fabric? Where's that
We'll
located?
use the silt sacks, and we'll put them on, on a dry place where they can work.
Is that all
What would be-
detailed? I'm
What
sorry,
would be
go ahead.
wrong with using a frac tank where you can put the micro filters in, it comes out perfectly clear? So it's pumped out.
That's all means and methods of construction, so.
Right.
I just wanna see it on a hard spec, that's all, cause,
Well, I think with the magnitude of this project, in all honesty, it's all gotta be laid out, because when I go down through your construction sequence, I don't see where you have the porta dam in and everything before you're tearing the building down.
We have a detail of the Porter Dam here.
Well, I saw that, but I'm just saying in your sequence.
It's detailed in this, in the sequence of construction on my erosion control plan.
But it says, right off the bat on item 10, it says
1.6.2.
but demo of residence,
You guys are looking at two different pages, I think.
it's under your sequence.
This is my sequence of construction.
That's what I'm looking at.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, take number 10. Demo of residence, disposal of debris, all right? After that, on number 11 is where you're putting your cofferdam. So you're doing it with the water in place?
The cofferdam gets installed with divers, the braces get
I
put
know,
in
I
place.
put them in, but
And
it's not stating here that it's in place prior to demo. In your sequence.
I can rearrange that.
Well, we wanna have this right down so there's no problems later.
rearrange that.
I think you have to look at this whole sequence because,
Yep.
One of the issues we're looking to eliminate is any kind of add-ons to the approval, which will be, addressed later on or whatever. Some things are impossible to anticipate, and we understand that. But we're not looking to allow conditions, is the word I'm looking for, as a condition of approval that you're gonna modify this and you're gonna change that. So I think what Gary's alluding to, what I'm trying to clarify for you, is that before we're going to take a vote on this, I think we're gonna ask you to come back and articulate on these forms everything that needs to be done to satisfy this commission for approval.
Mr. Chair, it's important to note, not that it changes your decision-making, because the applicant can reapply, but this application first came before the commission in April. We are at our 130-day limit for granting extensions. So if the commission does not approve tonight, then it would have to reject. Or if it takes no action, it is automatically rejected, and then the applicant will have to reapply. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't reject the applicant with prejudice. They're open to reapply, but that would be what would have to happen. It's just important to note that.
how I read down through your sequence, okay? If you look down at item 6, you're putting in your turbidity curtain, correct?
Yes.
All right. Then you're tearing your building down. There's still water there. You have not put your porta-dam in. You haven't dried the area. Is that how you're planning on doing it?
We will, the residence could be torn down to its base floor without any disturbance to the lake.
That's not how I'm saying the same demo. That's where I'm going with it.
It's means and methods of construction. I'm not the contractor.
Right.
We're not gonna disturb the lake, we're not gonna pollute the lake, we're gonna protect the lake.
No, we don't doubt any of that. We just need to see it so that
Now, what
a
if-
contractor has a hard spec to say, hey, this is what's in the spec. So one of the specs I'd like to see is like a spec for pumping any additional water out. So you say means and methods, and that's what most people would follow, some means and methods. I'd like to see that spec'd out. What is that? What type of filtration system are you gonna use to pump that water into? Because some people, I don't know, try to pump it through some filter fabric in a 55-gallon drum and, sort of come up with a method that might work, but we want to make sure we're doing it, I'm a big fan of hard spec on something, and then you just go to the spec and there's no ambiguity that, you could have done it a different way or this and that. I'd also like to see, some sort of spec about putting what lake bed is disturbed back. Whether we decide that's gonna be photographs taken, and you may need to talk to some other aquatic, I hate to use the term aquatic specialist, because I don't really know, but maybe there's somebody that can help us with this that's a little more specialized of an engineer. I know we had a spec, there was something you mentioned about downspouts were going to go,
The town engineers requested that the
Downspouts.
downspouts splash onto the shore.
Sure.
With splash pads.
Okay.
Instead of just directly into the lake. We have no
Right.
problems with that.
Right. I'm looking at anything we can improve, and actually, I know probably feel like we're giving you a hard time, but, you know, I do think where along the other side of the house where you're adding essentially lawn area and a lot of vegetation, you're improving runoff there because it's just runoff that probably
Want
comes
to
off.
look at your engineer's comments though.
Yeah.
Right, which say what?
That
I don't-
one of his suggestions was for you, if you want to weigh in.
Okay.
Say it again, Pam?
Yeah, I read them.
So, the,
Which say, because I made a mistake and didn't read them first, so.
They just came.
Oh, that's not it.
You know,
The
there
new
was,
one.
there was some lag between,
strictly speaking, when it comes to things like feasible and prudent alternatives and minimum disturbed area, the riprap shore as it stands is stable. The addition of trees into the riprap shore, I don't know that Mr. Grimaldi, the town engineer, had any concerns with. You can definitely do some plantings and make that beautiful. But when it comes to likelihood to fail, disturbance of the area, you can certainly make a lawn that is beautiful for people on a flat area between two retaining walls. But in terms of stability of the lakeshore, riprap is armored.
Yeah.
Riprap's not going anywhere. We can say that the water's not gonna filter, but that's not exactly true. Water that comes off the road goes into the riprap and percolates down, and if you have plants planted in there and the dirt that is within there, and I don't know what's under that riprap because I haven't dug into it, but it's stable. It's gonna percolate in. It's not necessarily better. It's not necessarily, strictly speaking, better, and it's not minimal disturbance.
Right, that's right.
It doesn't mean it's bad, it's just not necessarily better.
I agree with Russell. I mean, I get this dam is what's done, but I agree some type of lake specialist should come in and
Well,
give some recommendation.
Have the owners considered, doing this at the next deep drawdown?
Waiting 3 years is not acceptable for the owners.
Phil, so.
No, I think, it's over here, Russ. It's underneath the draft, it was underneath
Oh,
the
no, I
draft
think
motion.
she had it. I think that was it.
This was mine.
Yeah.
Commissioners, just remembering that we gotta keep this all on the record.
Sorry.
So, general chatter if
I
you
just
use the
had a
papers.
question.
Go ahead.
What if the dam gets compromised, the coffer dam? Does that ever get compromised then?
We've never, in our business, never had a problem with the Porta Dam. We use Rain
Okay.
for Rent, I don't know if you're familiar with them, for the Porta Dams. We've never had that problem at all. It's a good system, it's a great system. It's, I think the major concern, to me, is, you know, you can tell a contractor you gotta tear the building down and don't get anything in the water. That's not gonna happen. You're not taking it apart piece by piece. They're grabbing it, stuff of that nature. I think
No,
your
we won't take it
sequence.
apart piece by piece. We do not want to pollute the lake. We
Well, I
want to
don't
preserve Highland Lake.
I don't believe you can, whatever, but I think the sequence has gotta be changed. I think you're gonna put the Porta Dam in. Put it in, de-water. My concern over the whole thing is on the de-watering, the silt sacks that you're talking about, they do work fine. There's no doubt about it. What works better than a silt sack is a frac tank, because the frac tank just sits, you can clean it out, it's got microfabric in it, comes out, the water comes out absolutely clean. Silt sack, the water runs out everywhere on a silt sack. So you're gonna have a complete wet work site. And it's gonna be eroding down the hill, where if you turn around and take and put it in a frac tank, the pipe comes out of the frac tank and it can discharge right into the lake. You know, I think it's a better process for you, it's a better process for us by a long shot,
Okay.
you know.
How about
Just
along
because
that-
there's,
Wait, one at a
sorry,
time. Go ahead, Mary Ann.
there's just been a bit of
Carefully.
chatter about the independent engineer's report, the fact that we just got it.
I know.
So I would like to suggest we read the comments aloud and into the record in this meeting.
Pam, is that necessary, or can we just make
or
reference? to
take
it?
a couple minutes and read them. The applicant has been provided with a copy.
Yeah, or that, because we're all in catch-up mode and it's pretty important.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable request.
Pam, is it necessary, or can we just make reference to it?
You don't need to read it aloud, but if you
But we
wanna
need
take,
to read
if
it.
you wanna,
Oh,
I
personally.
think anyone who hasn't
Oh,
read
oh.
it right now should read it.
Yeah, I understand, now
Okay.
I understand your point.
I don't think,
Go ahead, Jackie.
I don't think we should do that right now, because
I'm not hearing you in the tape long. If this is appealed, the transcript needs to get it, I'm sorry.
I just don't think that we can take the time to do that and fully absorb it in this public hearing.
And Jeff, you wanted to say something?
Well, I had a couple things, but they're in a different part of the process. As far as this goes, this, I would like to be able to read it
And
at my
digest
leisure
it.
and digest it.
Digest it.
And
I
then
understand.
consider. The things that I came up in my mind were, when the water is removed, you said you're gonna dig down 3.5, 4 feet to put the footings in. You're gonna need to have a sump area because they're gonna fill up. So you're gonna need to have a sump area that's gonna keep pumping the water up, and the frac tank that's the way to go. So off of that part of the topic, it looks like, and these are some questions I came up with earlier today, but it looks like you're going from impervious surface of 12.4% up to 32. And that's always been against what we've worked on.
Yeah.
And not that I was at the site today, and I think it needs to get cleaned up, and they certainly want to make it beautiful, but we've had, I think we want to try to keep to what we.
The increase in impervious coverage, the residence on shore is the same, 73.5 square feet. We need 7 square feet for a condenser pad. We need 12 square feet for a generator pad. The front walk and all the steps are 106 square feet, and all the walls are 240 square feet. That totals 438.5 square feet. And we're going from an existing impervious of 12.4% to 32.1%. It's really because of the walls and the condenser pad and the utility pad.
I understand, but I just wanted to bring that up to the commission.
But it's possible,
Mary Ann, hang on.
Sorry.
Jeff was, go ahead, finish, Jeff.
Okay, the other thing was, it looked like, let me find the right map. It looked like that your wall was taking back some of the lake.
We're not taking
And I think it
any,
was-
we're not taking any of the lake. The seawall is on the edge of the water.
Okay,
the
how about
entire way.
on the south side?
On the south side, the water line is right here,
Okay,
and it goes underneath the residence, and it pops back out over here.
and doesn't the wall,
The wall is not extended beyond the current existing edge of the water in any way, shape, or form.
The black line's the property line, the blue line's the water line, the speckled three-dimensional figure, or the two-dimensional, that's the wall.
okay, I'm thinking that the black line is the,
Black line's property
wall.
line, Jeff.
that's the property line?
That's the property line.
In-
Excuse
in the
me.
actual- in
That's
lake
the
bed?
water line, yes.
Okay, so I was thinking this is where the wall was gonna go, and that
No,
would be taking back some of the
that's the
lake.
wall right there.
Okay.
That's the edge of the water, that's the wall
Actually,
right
is it in
there.
the lake? The property is in the lake?
It cantilevers over the lake, yeah.
Yeah,
It cantilevers over the lake.
There wasn't an already
Go ahead.
existing building there. If this was presented, I mean, this would never get.
This is not new construction. You know, we're just asking to replace what's there with
Well,
some minor improvements to the site.
but I'd like to just ask a question.
Sure.
It is possible to rebuild this house without installing those retaining walls, correct? All
Yes.
those retaining walls are not necessary to replace what's there.
This wall and stairs here is new, and we're requesting this. This wall is new. We need these stairs and walkway to access the residence. These two walls here are at grade, you won't see them.
How's the residence currently accessed?
It has a wood steps up to the deck right here,
Uh-huh.
and there's a walkway.
So it could be rebuilt in that manner, right?
It could be.
Right. Thanks.
Can it be supported in a different way, the house, out to the lake?
I'm not a structural engineer. retain the services of Kevin Archer, who is a structural engineer, and his plan is what he's come up with. This is his best way of supporting this residence.
Okay.
Before I saw the site today, I looked at it before the last meeting, but not as thoroughly as I looked at it today. And to stick with our standard rules, I don't think would be a good thing for this site. I really think that what he's designed will make it a much nicer site for the whole lake and the lake property and the owners around them, but it does not comply with our rules. So
This
that we
property,
have an issue with this.
this
you know.
property has existed prior to the enactment of zoning.
I understand, but
And the wetlands
you're over the
regulations.
15% pervious coverage.
We're going for variances, we're in front of ZBA
Well,
next week.
that's us to decide whether this is acceptable or
We're
not.
going to, we're in front of ZBA next week for variances, and we'll be applying to planning and zoning for a special permit. And then we'll go for building permit and zoning permit, if we're successful with you and ZBA and planning and zoning.
You know, one of the issues, and I don't know if it's appropriate to bring it up at the public hearing or when we close the public hearing. Maybe it's best I hold my comment till we close the public hearing.
There should be no discussion among the commission after the public hearing under old business in such a way that there cannot be continued discussion with members of the public. You should not do that.
I'd like to ask just a technical question. Is this property considered a separate?
This is
Yes.
its own
Property.
identity, has its own tax ID,
Mhm.
and can be sold separately. It is a non-conforming lot with a residence that was built in 1923, that the town has allowed to be developed over the years. And it has a certificate of occupancy,
Okay,
and its foundations are decrepit, and
Not
we're
to this
here to
level.
ask permission to reconstruct it,
well,
and
yes,
just replace it in kind.
well, no, let's be straight with each other here. You're asking to replace it in kind and add,
The residence, I'm asking to replace in kind.
okay,
In addition to that,
Correct.
I am asking for a small seawall here to create a 360 square foot yard, to have some place for a yard.
and to put in a concrete pad for a generator.
We need a generator, power goes out, and we need a pad for an AC unit. Any residence has that. The town doesn't have any regulations regarding the placement of that. I don't need variances for those things.
Well, except that you're asking for more impervious coverage to have those
The,
things.
the increase in impervious coverage is de minimis. And Tom Grimaldi has agreed with me.
It's doubled.
It's a minor increase, and while we're seeking variances approval for it, it's a negative impact for anyone from a drainage perspective.
Even if the generator pad and the air conditioning pad were all that was added, this would be under. Right, it's like 19 additional square feet, if those were the only two things added. So rather than focusing on that as a
Well,
concern.
yes, and.
Right, and
retaining
everything
it.
else.
Correct.
You have other concerns.
So-
Just to note, rather than
Yeah.
getting stuck on generator pad and air conditioning pad, those are only
You
adding
know,
about
I
20
was
square
just
feet.
saying they weren't mentioned in the discussion of all the impervious coverage that was being requested.
They also can be placed above the ground on legs, so that there would be nothing on the, underneath of it. The pad would sit on top of the ground on legs.
That's still impervious.
And the application, the air conditioner or the other would sit on top of that also.
I believe, Steve, though, that's still considered impervious. It's always covered, like when we have porch roofs that extend over, that increases the impervious.
I would like to point out that your regulations do not address walls in any way, shape, or form when it comes to coverage. We are voluntarily offering these numbers to you, and to be upfront with everybody. But your regulations don't say to include the walls anywhere
That's
in regards to
always-
impervious coverage.
That's always been considered impervious.
It's
Yeah.
not written in your regulations.
Any surveyor that I've seen.
It's always
It's not
calculated.
written in your planning and zoning regulations.
Okay.
It
The
may not
surveyors-
be, but it is always.
However, we are
it-
voluntarily including it in the numbers
I
and
was-
seeking approvals
I-
with all
I-
of being very upfront with all of you regarding this.
I like
And
to
we-
finish
And
what
we
I was saying.
appreciate that. We appreciate that.
But just for the record, those walls that are on any property are counted as the impervious coverage by the state of Connecticut certified surveyors who provide surveys to us.
Any surveyor, when they do a survey, includes all of the features that are on a property.
Right.
Okay? But your regulations don't require us to include that. They are left out of your regulations, but we are voluntarily including them so that we are clear with everybody regarding that issue.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments, or is there anything else you would like to add that we should hear at this point?
The owners are just really just asking permission to replace this residence and improve it. And it's not gonna be any bigger than what it is right now, and I think everyone will be very pleased with it at the end of this project if we can obtain all these improvements.
Is there a well on the property?
Town water, town sewer.
So there's a grinder pump somewhere, or is it going to the?
It's a grinder pump, it's a sewage injector pump. Currently has one now.
Whereabouts is it?
It's in the lower level, there's utility.
Okay, it's underneath the,
Right now, currently, it's a 2.5 story residence with a basement.
right?
The basement is the lower level.
Okay,
It
so-
has a utility room with an injector pump and a washer and dryer currently, and we're just gonna be putting that back. The rest of that room is kayak storage.
Yep, I saw it.
Down here is gonna be a laundry room and a utility room on, and this is gonna be basically a wet area. This is just gonna be decking, and the water can just go through it.
But presently it's water, right?
This room currently exists.
Floor.
This room currently exists,
Yeah, but isn't it, what is the floor of that room
decking.
now?
Currently, right now, the floor is decking, and you can look through the boards and see the water.
Okay.
And then we're gonna be replacing it with decking, and you can look through the boards and see the water. Because they're gonna be bringing kayaks in and out, they want the water to just go out. The only place that's gonna be winterized is this utility room. Right here, this will be sealed, heated, conditioned. This area will be the deck floor.
What will the floor be in the utility room?
I think they're gonna use E-Pay for all the decks.
All right, any further comments or issues or concerns on the part of the
Again,
commission?
I'm
Go ahead.
just, my final one is, I mean, I think he wrote down some of the things in a list of the different hard specs, and somewhere needs to be spec'd out that you would be completing, how you'd be, that you'd be complete, no equipment would be on the lake bed, and how that would be accomplished, right? Would the work completed on shore? Just some sort of spec written up, right? So that everybody's clear that that's, you know, we talked about it, but that doesn't mean if it's not on a hard spec, it's not on a hard spec, right? So that was just,
We will detail that out for you.
yeah, that was just, like I said, my biggest thing is trying to protect the lake bed that's there, so that it doesn't become, you know, a huge construction site that's just, you know, kind of backfilled with readily available material that doesn't really fit with the current lake bed, so. I think that's it for me.
I don't think, we haven't seen any specs on the design of any portion of the lake wall that you might be replacing either.
The structural plans have been submitted.
Yeah, I think it's on this.
Structural plans.
We didn't talk about it. Can you briefly describe what your plan is?
So, you can see, let's see here. Here's a section of the house. This is the lower level in that kayak storage room. And this is the foundation wall that's on the shore, and it's gonna have a spread footing. So this is the high side, high ground, and this is the lake side. This is the lower level utility room, and we're gonna be putting the large boulders to control the wave action. This is a section through the two walls. This is the sea wall, maximum 3 feet tall, with the boulders in front to deflect the waves. And then this is the other retaining wall beyond it. And you can see that there will be about 3 feet 6 inches minimum into grade.
What type of construction will the wall be?
They're concrete with reinforced with rebar, faced with stone and bluestone capping.
Are they prefab or they?
No, No, we're gonna be building forms and pouring. Typical foundation construction that you would see on a residence.
Okay, and then you're gonna, face the water part with snow.
Any portion of the wall that is exposed is gonna have a stone facing and a blue stone cap.
I got it, okay.
So you won't see the concrete.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That page is not in my packet for some reason. Can I come look closely at your?
Anybody else with anything while Mary Ann is looking?
While Marianne's looking, I just wanna note the timetable that you have in front of you, and I wanna note that there was a draft motion, included with your, hold on. Just speak up so the tape gets it, I'm sorry.
I was just asking about these stones that were going to be placed in front of the seawall to break up the waves.
And Jim, you said?
We're proposing angular boulders of 18 to 24 inches in front of all of the seat walls to break up the wave action so it doesn't affect any other properties on the lake. Which is also the industry standard.
Yeah, I actually think that's something we should probably start talking about, given the big wave action of the boats in general. But are those boulders there? You're using boulders that are currently on
No, we'll
the
be
lake bed?
importing boulders.
Uh-huh.
Are those boulders past the property line?
Those boulders in front of the walls will be in the lake to break up the wave action.
So they will not be on the property of the owner?
No, they will be in the lake.
The state's property.
The state owns the water, the town owns the land underneath the water.
Right.
The state owns the dam.
Question, any chance that we could get elevation, bottom of footing elevations?
They're on this plan.
Whereabouts?
I don't have that page.
They're all 3 feet 6 inches below existing grade. All frost walls will go at a minimum 3 feet 6 inches below existing grade. Unless we hit ledge, then they will be shallower, and we'll be able to pin to the ledge.
When you scale it off your plan, it doesn't show.
The structural plans detail it all, 3 feet 6 inches minimum. The architect didn't detail that on his plan. Kevin Archer did on his plans.
Come on. Just make sure you get that sheet.
All right, before we close the public hearing, any other comments on the part of the, or questions on the part of the commission? Is there anything you'd like to add?
I would just like to, just remind everybody that this is an existing house, and we're just asking to reconstruct it. This is not a new project, this is not a new development. While we may be asking for some minor improvements in other places, we're really just trying to maintain a property that has existed for nearly 100 years.
Ma'am?
So, Rick, with regard to the timeline, you would have to, they would be obligated to, close the public hearing this evening. The big thing with that is, and then you would be out of, with the application being accepted April 20th, 65 days runs, and then the applicant can grant up to 65 days to any of the various 65, 35, 65. So with closing the public, but you wouldn't need to act on it. You would have, you would have 35 days, so you could keep it open tonight. You don't have to close the public hearing tonight, you can keep it
Continue
open
it.
for, what's that?
We can continue it.
35 to close it, but you got 65 to render a decision. But you would not be able to take any new testimony.
After
So-
tonight.
After tonight. So, rather than, if there's any open questions, I know you've been taking really good notes and you understand the process that you could always reapply with the exact same plans, just being prepared to address the various,
I'm willing to grant any extensions that I can as
areas
well.
of concern, right, and so there were, the draft motion had some, conditions that were included as part of the independent engineer's review comments. And, there might be some discussion about, having that independent engineer, inspect it along the way, so just, and to make sure that you're okay with it, the standard 12 conditions. 1 through 12 are standard. 13 would be setting an erosion and sedimentation bond. 14 would be design engineer to inspect all phases of the site work and provide correspondence to the wetlands agent indicating the permanent stabilization of each project phase. 15, the owner developer shall add erosion and sedimentation control measures as deemed necessary by the town of Winchester staff and/or consulting town engineer. A pre-construction meeting shall be scheduled and held with the town staff prior to the start of construction. That would probably be where means and methods would be ironed out, to inspect ENS control measures and to discuss construction sequencing phasing. Inspection requirements by the consulting town engineer shall be deemed by the commission. So it's that recommendation by the independent engineer is something that you folks could establish as part of this. You can make it with whatever frequency, and all you'd want to do is run it by, because there'd be likely a cost. You'd want to run it by, make sure the applicant is acceptable to whatever you find acceptable, and the commission, you know, kind of iron that out before you close the public hearing. If you're inclined to want to consider this, or if anyone is, you'd want to have that discussion before you close the public hearing. All erosion and sedimentation control measures shall remain in place and maintained until a permanent vegetative cover is established. And then and those complete what was recommended by Tom Grimaldi and Rob Hilbrand. The last one that was part of discussion tonight would be photographs of lake bed to be taken following installation of cofferdam and to be restored prior to removal of cofferdam.
And we would also need a condition that there would be no machinery on the lake bed, and any digging that's done has to be done. We haven't actually kind of come to an agreement about what we think would be.
They have to resolve it. They
Yeah,
ju- they ju-
yeah.
They have to
And
resolve
the
it.
construction sequence would need to be redone based on, if we're going to approve the cofferdam, right, to show that the cofferdam
And
is
then
not burst.
Gary's suggestion regarding the
frac tank.
frac tank.
Yeah.
Frac tank to be included.
Yeah.
And in their defense, as far as equipment in the lake, there's only 2 piers that are any distance offshore. The wall that's out in front, out of the lake, can be done with an excavator. It won't be sitting on the lake bed.
Right. It's gonna reach out.
You'll be able to reach, you know, kind of put the
Where would it sit?
On the land.
They could get
Sit
an
on there.
excavator with a really long arm,
Yeah.
or they could hand dig.
Yeah. Then,
So that's would be included in the condition?
that would be another condition, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the frac tank, the work completed on shore,
How does the restoration of the lake bed determined? The commission has been noting repeatedly that lake bed restoration is important to them, making sure that nothing is left, boulders are placed. This is all part of the applicant's plan, but what is deemed a restored lake bed? I can't make that determination. I'm not a lake specialist.
Can we talk about that for a second? I doubt that this lake bed looks any different than what you see in this photo.
No, we're not talking about, to me, I'm not concerned what that is now. I'm talking about the new construction on top of this, right? We're putting a retaining wall in, we're digging in that area, so what
Retaining
is
walls are on
returned?
shore,
I know,
except
but
for
stuff,
the 2
you know,
concrete piers.
but stuff
on the
happens in
residence.
front of that retaining wall. They're not gonna reach over the top of it, put boards there, right? They're gonna be standing in front of it, that's all
Well,
I'm
I-
saying,
yeah, I
right? Which
think-
is fine, of course. We have other people that have like walls, you stand in front of it to rebuild it. So we're just trying to see how we put that, what's the spec for putting that back?
Right.
You know, we gotta come up with something.
And I think Michael's making a good point, which is that it would be best determined by a specialist,
Yeah,
who,
I can't.
you know, isn't any of us. And I think that that specialist would also need to determine what is acceptable, if anything, as it relates to
We
bringing
could
in
have
the.
an environmental scientist.
Sorry, I was speaking.
Oh, sorry, excuse me.
In terms of putting boulders in front of the retaining wall, right? Because that's a new material that's being requested to bring onto the lake bed, which is something we don't typically allow or approve. So, again, I think that same specialist that we're talking about would need to weigh in on that.
Michael, have you had any experience or any information or Pam in terms of the placement of boulders in front of, the intentional placement of boulders in front of a lake wall?
As staff, no, but I think I think you were ready to address, you would employ.
What I could offer is after the coffer dam is installed, we could have an environmental scientist come out and review the site and write a report and make recommendations regarding its restoration. That would be the only person that I could think of that would be qualified to do something like this.
Well, that's a different thing than the restoration is one thing.
The
The
environment,
putting the
boulders.
boulders into the lake is another thing, because we don't allow people to put things in the lake. You're extending the shoreline by doing
right.
that. And
Currently,
if the I'm speaking,
I'm sorry.
if the shoreline were extended all the way around the lake, we soon would have a smaller lake.
Currently, underneath the residence, and you can see in these photos, there are already boulders in front of the foundation. So that is not, we're not changing that condition. The only place that we're gonna be adding the boulders is basically from this corner to the steps.
In front of the
Roughly 30
property
feet.
line.
How high would it be? How many boulders high?
There is one stack of boulders, 18 to 24 inches. Really,
feet
like
from
at
the-
the water, they'd be like halfway at the water line.
So 2 feet from the lake
You
bed.
can see in the detail here. You know, they would just extend above the water line to deflect the waves.
Presently, there are boulders from the existing wall in the water already.
Yes.
But he's asking to extend them along a new wall
He
The
can-
lake.
into the lake.
It's possible to either reposition them and then move your wall behind them.
Well, it's also possible to build the wall with variegated stone so that the waves are broken up by the wall itself.
You have to build the wall.
We're not
on the
engineers.
property line.
We're not engineers. We're trying to figure out how do we make your plan meet the guidelines that we're trying to enforce. You know, and my only question was that there are rocks or boulders already on the lake bed.
Yes.
If you were to leave those that you want to leave in position there and put the wall behind them, now you would not be adding stone to the lake bed.
Correct.
You'd be using what's there. Maybe they're not ideal, but they're there. And your wall would now be slightly behind them or incorporate some of them into the wall. And they're just, it's not a perfectly straight wall. It's pier at the bottom.
I see what you're saying. I will look into that.
And that's maybe when, you know, I think what we're moving towards is putting as one of the conditions is having, when the wall is up, or the coffer dam is having another engineer, that specializes in these aquatic environments, if one exists. Environmental scientist to make an assessment then, which I like. I mean, I think that's a good recommendation, and I'm glad that, I think we can come to agreement that that's the right direction to go with that as a condition.
But there's a lot of lake wall, there's a request for adding a significant length of lake wall.
Roughly 30 feet.
Right.
Well,
And there are no boulders there right now, and they're
we
asking.
don't know what's there.
It is very rocky right now.
So you're suggesting work with the rocks that are already there,
Use some-
along the whole 30 feet.
And you build a wall to configure or conform or meet or address their concern.
You can see in this photograph right now.
I think that the whole
that
waterfront is
the
rocky.
rocks are already there underneath the residence currently.
Yeah.
Sure,
And this condition will remain the same.
sure. But
And-
I think my concern is the 30-foot of wall that you're requesting to build. You're requesting to build 30 feet of wall and place new boulders in front of it.
Yeah.
That, I think, is something that we can't approve. I don't think we can allow you to bring in new material.
Thank you, Marianne. That shore as it exists is riprap. So it's already
Yeah.
large chunks of stone. The point that Steve makes is that if you pull the target location of the wall behind the existing large chunks of stone, you don't infringe further into the lake, which brings about Jackie's concern of, do we lead to filling in the lake by allowing this practice, which is, in terms of diminishing wave action effect on wall and extending its lifespan, a good thing.
Right.
So Steve's suggestion seems to fit everyone's concerns, and then it just comes back to the applicant that this would be a reduction of, I don't know how many inches of wall.
I can look into the design of the wall and take your recommendation, and we can incorporate the angular walls into the base of the seawall. And I will look into sliding this wall back to incorporate the angular walls and keep it on our property.
And speaking for myself, I think, not being naive, a wall is better than what's there. Because right now, it's just gonna keep eroding and eroding
gonna
and
keep
eroding, and
what-
making it an unsafe site.
What's there has been manipulated in the past, with or without a permit.
Well, whether it has or hasn't, but, you
It's
know,
not
but
native.
again,
My point is, it's not native.
a clean seawall structurally is, and environmentally is far better than a mess you have out there now.
Yes.
In my opinion.
I agree.
Okay, I'm glad you agree, thank you.
I agree.
Are there any other comments that we need to address? I think the commission, I'm getting a sense that the commission seems to be willing to, and the applicant seems to be willing to accept some of the, or all of the concerns that we've had individually and collectively to make this project move forward tonight. Because if we don't move it forward tonight, then my understanding is that we're going to close the public hearing, and there's no further comment from the gentleman or from us, and what would happen next?
You have to take a vote at some point within the period that is allotted to you by statute, which I'd have to check is 65. I think Wetlands has either 65 or 35 after the hearing
Render a
closes to
decision,
render a
65,
decision.
right.
Because you can go away and reflect on your thoughts and come back at the next meeting. You just can't accept any more testimony.
But we have enough time to leave it open to the next meeting and
No.
take, we do
The
not?
public hearing has to be closed at
Public
this
hearing
point.
will close tonight, period.
Oh, we don't have 35 more days.
No.
Not for the public hearing. We're out of time for the public
Well,
hearing.
let's make sure of that. And Pam, I thought was pretty thorough before.
And I would just like to point out that a lot of this time was used up with the town engineer being so busy and him getting his comments back to me. And I worked very hard to get the revised plans to him. I emailed him at 6 o'clock on the moment. I emailed him at 5:45, and I got a reply at 6 o'clock that he was on vacation. However, he responded back to me 5 minutes later, and he just got back yesterday to review things today to respond
And
for
from
this.
our perspective, we found it on our desk at 7 o'clock tonight.
I
So,
appreciate-
you know, yeah.
I appreciate everyone's efforts in all of this. You know, obviously this is a really complicated project, and goes beyond the scope that normally all of us deal with on a daily basis in regards to these applications. It's very unique, and I appreciate all the time and effort that everybody's putting into this.
Okay, thank you. I'm waiting for Michael and Pam to.
And while we're waiting, just a few more of the comments, make sure that you take tons of photographs, label, you know, with the sequence of events, no machine at all on the lake bed,
I will-
and the frac tank to be utilized until the work is complete.
I will put these things directly on the plans so that they're not hidden anywhere, so that everybody can see it in black and white. And I will spell all of this out,
Let-
and I
let
will
me-
work on the construction sequence.
Let me
and
ask you
refine
this,
it.
how long would it take you to revise, because you're gonna put it all on the plan, so it's gonna be a revision of the plan. How long would it take you to revise the plan so that all of our additional concerns and issues that we raised tonight are in writing on a hard plan?
You guys meet once a month. I would need at least 2 weeks to revise the plans and resubmit to you so that you have 2 weeks to review them.
And at that point, we probably ask for our engineer to review it. You know, I'm thinking out loud just to be sure that, you know.
I think in all of this that we're discussing, I don't think Tom Grimaldi's gonna have any issues with this. I've had,
So then if we close the public hearing tonight and not take a vote, because we have that right not to take the vote, but we have a right not to take any more testimony, Go ahead.
No, I think we have one more meeting.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So all your notes, you could, if you were inclined to wanna address it and come back another meeting.
then I would, most likely, I would like to do that. I'd like to revise the plans and then take all of this into consideration and present something to you that you guys are comfortable with and can approve comfortably.
and you also then have, you're seeking approval from other commissions also.
Next week, we're in front of
So,
ZBA.
in effect, we're not putting a bullet to your head, kind
No,
of.
you're not. You're not delaying the project. There's many moving parts to this, and I'm working at it from all angles. And we haven't submitted to P&Z yet, because I'm trying to get all my ducks in order, so to speak, in regards to here with Wetlands and ZBA before we get to the
Chairman Michael, if he complies and gets everything that we've talked about tonight onto a revised plan and submitted, or to the engineer to review them, so that by the next meeting, you will have done your part. Hopefully, the engineer will get back to us with urgency, that for the next meeting, and not on our desk.
Yeah, sorry.
Not on our desk, seriously. Our packets usually are picked up the Friday before the meeting, so, your time frame is like 3.5 weeks, give or take. And, if we pick it up in our packet the Friday before the meeting, we have time, 3 or 4 days to look at what he says, and then visit the site to see how we feel about it, blah, blah, blah.
So if you could get a response, do
In
your
about 2
modifications.
weeks. I can
Yeah.
get revised plans in about 2 weeks.
And then we get
We'll
wrap that
resubmit,
up September
and I'll get
15th.
things to Tom,
Yeah.
and so that everyone has the time to look at things and digest everything, and we can all hopefully end up on the same page.
And then I just had one other, due to the scope of the project, we'll be looking for a $10,000 bond for that.
Oh.
I mean, this is
you
impeding
go,
on the
girl.
lake wall.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean-
all right, we can determine that, but that's a number, that's not gonna be a problem. Right. Do we have consensus that we can close the public hearing now?
No, don't.
No,
close
Don't
it.
close
Oh, we
public
have to
hearing.
continue
But, and
it.
you wanna open
Continue.
it up to the public that's here.
Oh. Anybody from the public audience who'd like to contribute to this public hearing? Thank you. Everybody, one shook and said no, somebody just looked up. Okay, we're good? All right,
And
then we're
then
gonna,
September 21st
we're
is,
gonna continue the
yeah,
public
for anyone
hearing
who might be watching at home.
to
you
the
just wanna
next
make a
regularly
motion
scheduled
to
meeting,
stay.
September 21st. You have homework, okay? We have homework.
Fantastic.
And we thank you for your thorough presentation. I think the commission was in its proper authority and due diligence to bring matters of concern to you.
I appreciate all the comments
Yeah.
and feedback from everyone tonight. This is not an easy project, and I'm doing my best to work with everybody to accommodate all of this, and I'm sure that we can come to a point where we can all agree, and hopefully this project can move forward.
Okay,
I just wanna make one note, since we are gonna meet again on this next month. I don't know if everyone else was missing some pages, but,
we're
I
gonna get
don't-
new documents.
I went through the files. I don't have the structural drawings.
I will
okay,
make sure
so
that
we'll
they get
need
submitted
those,
in
that'd
the
be
next
great,
package.
thank you.
And I
Okay.
will also make sure that the architectural plans and the structural plans align with my plans exactly.
Great.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Are you ready with the motion? Formalize.
Yeah, we'd like to have a motion to close the public, to continue the public hearing till, what,
September 21st.
September 21st at 7 PM.
Exactly
You're
35
shaking your
days
head?
from now. The
I'll
maximum
make a
possible
motion
time.
to extend the public hearing, for IWWC 22-08, applicant James McTighe, sorry, and owner Stephen Heffer and Hina Sultan, for the location at 212 West Wakefield Boulevard, to reconstruct the residence and decking, new walks and retaining walls, with the amended requirements until September 21st.
Is there a second?
Second.
Gary, all those in favor of continuing the public hearing? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Now it's more unanimous.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McTighe. We'll be in touch.
All right, the next public hearing scheduled is 22-14. The owner is Michael Gonzalez, and the address is 524 East Wakefield Boulevard. And the proposal is to extend the dock, and Pam, you have literature from the applicant?
There was a copy of Mr. Gonzalez's email from this evening, just confirming his intention.
We have to read it into the record, or just, okay? So we have to accept his withdrawal, which, don't take any action on it at all. It's withdrawn. Okay, next application or public hearing is 22-15.
So
The owner is Michael and Desiree Gonzalez, 522 East Wakefield Boulevard, and the proposal is to install a lift, and we're in the same situation,
His email covered both applications.
okay? So we'll move ahead to old business. 22-08. The applicant is James McTeague, the owner is Stephen Heffer, and Hina Sultan, 212 West Wakefield Boulevard, and the proposal is to reconstruct residence and decking, new walls and retaining wall, and under old business that has been continued. We'll make a motion to continue it till the next meeting in September. Okay, is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion to extend IWWC 22-08 applicant James McTeague, owner Stephen Hafer and Hina Sultan for 212 West Wakefield Boulevard to reconstruct the residence and decking, new walls and retaining walls to September 21st.
Is there a second? Second. Gary, all those in favor of? It's unanimous, thank you very much. The next application is 22-13. The applicant is Donald LaPointe, 428 East Wakefield Boulevard, add deck to shed, use lake for irrigation system. I don't see anybody in the audience representing the applicant. Go ahead, Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. LaPointe and I spoke at one point this past month. He continued to be intransigent about getting the updated survey. I spoke to the owner yesterday, who received a call from his bank wondering what this violation on his land was. The owner, meanwhile, is very insistent that he will, in fact, reach out to the surveyor and get the updated site plan that will be the as-built of all features. I expect to hear back from him about contacting the surveyor tomorrow. So we do have one more meeting that can be continued. Hopefully we will have something next month.
Is there a motion to continue?
All right, I'll make a motion to.
Andrea's on a roll.
Okay, I know, right? I'm just gonna keep going through this agenda tonight. IWWC 22-13, applicant Donald LaPointe, for owner Robert Bates and Tracy Bates, location at 428 East Wakefield Boulevard, to add deck to shed and use the lake for irrigation system. So our next
Second.
meeting at September 21st.
Gary, all those in favor of continuing? It's unanimous. Okay, the next application is 22-14. The owner is Michael and Desiree Gonzalez at 524 East Wakefield, and to install a deck. Pam, do we have to formally deny this, or just?
It is withdrawn.
Withdrawn.
You can skip right by.
Okay. The next application is by the same owner.
Also withdrawn.
At 522 Wakefield Boulevard, and the proposal is to install a lift, and that application is withdrawn. The next application is 2222. The applicant is James McGuire, West Wakefield Boulevard, map 113, block 121, lot 023024. Proposal is a dock and a swim float. Anybody from?
It has also been withdrawn.
Oh, we're on a roll.
That's McGuire.
Thank you. Couldn't wait to say that, huh? 22-27, James Silver and Megadena Silva. The applicant is James Silver, 543 West Wakefield Boulevard. Install a buoy. Coming forward is Mr. Silva.
James Silver, yes.
So, Mr. Chair, if I might start, at the previous meeting, Mr. Silver had noted that he was applying for the buoy, but we had found some discrepancies in the files concerning the installation of those walls. We could find nothing on our files about the walls. I had reached out to the engineer for more information. The engineer provided us with both the as-built as well as the structure for the walls, the structural drawings. I emailed the engineer again following the last meeting because there was some question about whether or not the engineer could certify that these walls had been correctly installed. The engineer sent me an email saying that I was on site, not me, that he was on site when the walls were installed, that they were installed to spec, and that he can swear up and down about that. I can produce the email if it's the pleasure of the commission, but the engineer believes that everything was done properly according to the specs that you have.
Okay, would you name the engineer?
That was George Cotter, as a professional engineer.
Yep.
And you have
I do have that. I have that written document on my email. It just didn't make it into your background.
Thank you. All right, what other concerns do we have now, other than we have to address the buoy? Any other concerns? I see everybody shaking their head no?
This one was a pretty cut and dry as far as the buoy,
Issues,
right?
that's, yeah. Is there a motion to approve? Andrea?
I'll make a motion to approve IWWC 22-27 for James Silver and Magdalena Silver, applicant James Silver, to, at location 543 West Wakefield Boulevard to install a booth.
Also permitting
And
the,
permitting
yes.
the existing.
What we want to do is bring everything that we now have documentation for onto the formal files and
So
records
the
for
proposal, the
address.
original proposal was the installation of the buoy. The approval should be for the site as constructed, the location of the buoy, the walls as built on the 2014 site plan, and the placement of the dock.
And the stairway?
Yes.
That's all part
And the
of it.
stairways, all of that.
Okay.
Everything that was submitted on the plans to the commission last time.
As built in the 2014 survey,
The 2015 as-built by, which was,
which we have on file.
yes, we have that on file.
So you can merge the file. Is that appropriate? You will, okay. Blend them?
That's your motion, right? Did somebody
Okay.
say?
Yeah, so
Second.
that you would adopt that as your motion, Andrea, and then the
Okay,
second.
and Jackie seconded. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
So, the next application, I don't think he's here, so if you wanna take these gentlemen, I think they traveled.
Anything else, call us.
Where are we? What'd you say?
Yeah.
Tim?
This would move on to new business, Camp Wani Associates.
He's not available right now, so you're gonna
Just
move on to
stepped
Lit, correct?
Okay.
Palm Coast Capital.
What are we doing now?
Are we pushing it to the end of the meeting?
Push 22-31 to the end of new business.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so we have now 22-32, the owner is Ledgebrook LLC? Is that what we're,
Yes.
okay, okay. The applicant is Palm Coast Capital LLC. The location is New Hartford Road, map 034, block 158, lot 001E-2. And the proposal is construct a retail building parking area, a fenced outdoor display, and stormwater basin. Will you introduce yourself, sir?
Sure. I am Matt Darling. I'm the owner of Palm Coast Capital LLC. I'm with James Cassidy. He's my civil engineer. And we're here to present the proposed development on this property. It's going to be a tractor supply that we're going to be moving out of Barkhampton into the property. It's about a 23, give or take, 1,000 square foot building with another 23,000 square foot outdoor display area, just like they have right now at the Barkhampton store, except here, a bit more typical layout where you have the store and the yard adjacent to each other. We are not building within any wetlands, although we are within a buffer, and I think Jim's gonna speak to that a little bit tonight. But I'll be here to answer any questions about the development you might have and the operation of the store, if there's any questions about that. I personally built, I don't know, 40, 50 of these stores, a broker,
Good evening, for the record, my name is Jim Cassidy, I'm a professional engineer and principal with the firm of Halsey, Pearson and Cassidy. My office is located at 630 Main Street in Cromwell, Connecticut. Here tonight representing Encos Capital as the
Speak up a little because of the,
I got a soft voice.
okay.
I'm here tonight representing Encos Capital, who is the prospective developer of a new tractor supply retail here in Winsted, Chester, Connecticut.
Can you hold on for a minute? Do you have a mic to move over to the gentleman, or?
We can use mine. We got a booming voice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What?
So, to start off, as mentioned, the property that we're looking at developing is located on New Hartford Road. Am I getting picked up a little better now?
Much
Okay,
better, thank you.
There's no physical property address for this piece. The first plan I have up is an aerial photo of the existing site. The parcel ID is 034-158-001E2. The property on this photo is outlined in yellow. It's actually to the rear of 200 New Hartford Road. So it's to the rear of Ledgebrook Plaza. Ledgebrook Plaza is the plaza that contains Stop and Shop. The property itself consists of about 10.66 acres. It is zoned your TG, or your Town Gateway District. It is actually connected to New Hartford Road, which is on the far right-hand side of the page, by a 25-foot strip of land. And then that strip is actually about 675 feet deep. It makes it so it has frontage on the road. It's not actually the access to the property. Access to the property is through easements through the existing shopping center. So with the development of this property, there are no new curb cuts proposed. The very north is to the right on this page. So to the very south, this last piece here is actually about a 3-acre piece. It's actually a conservation easement on this property. So it's about 30% of the property that's actually in conservation easement. We did hire Matt Davison of Davison Environmental to go out and delineate the wetlands. There are wetlands identified on your town wetlands map. We asked Matt Davison to go out there and delineate it. I apologize, I thought it'd show a little bit better on this aerial photo, but there are definitely wetlands, and I'll go through them. The first area he located would be on the easterly boundary, or the lower portion, at just off-site. This is basically a wooded area with a low depression. The grade in this area is much lower than our actual site. It continues all the way down along the southern portion of the property, which the majority is within that conservation area. This is basically a wooded swamp. It eventually feeds into Mallory Brook, which continues off to the north and then down to the east, and I think it goes underneath New Hartford Road a couple times, and eventually through the existing site where Tractor Supply currently is. There are 3 additional wetlands areas that he delineated, and they're part of the soils report we included. Area B would be this area also in the conservation easement. This is a low area. There's actually a gravel, looks like an old logging road that goes into the back portion. Is slightly depressed, and there's saturated conditions and high groundwater in it. So he identified that actual access road in the back, which we're not using, as an additional wetlands area. Area C would be along the westerly boundary. The site looks like it may have previously been used either for a quarry operation. There's a pretty severe vertical rock face along the western boundary that goes down. At the toe of the rock face, there's a little bit of a low area. Over time, it's developed into a wetlands. It has some phragmites and cattails, and also some red maples right at the toe of slope. But it doesn't continue. It's actually right at the toe, and then as you go through the remainder of the site, it doesn't continue through the remainder of the site, although the site actually slopes away from that wetlands. And then the final wetlands area, Area D, would be in this area here. This actually looks like it was an excavated channel as part of the prior operations. As you see in the photos, there's some debris in it. There's some old tires in that area. It's once again, it's a very kind of isolated wetlands. It's in the middle of the field. It's the topography out here is kind of strange in that if you take a look at the southern half, the elevation is about 374, and it's actually sloping at a very moderate grade as you come down to this parking lot where the elevation is about 327. So you get about 6 to 7 feet in elevation change from the south to the north, but all the wetlands are typically to the south and to the west. They're actually higher than the majority of the development area. On the eastern edge, if you were to take a look at this portion here, you come down to the elevation 327, and from there, it looks like a fill slope from the prior operations on here, where it goes down about 7 feet in elevation to the property line where it's all wooded. But the majority of the site is pretty well disturbed. The photo doesn't really represent it, but you can see all kinds of access roads through here. There's not good vegetated cover. Looks like it's been maintained as a meadow for a while, but there's a lot of rock, old debris rock right to the surface. Again, this is the Stop and Shop to the front of us. There are presently 2 site access drives to Stop and Shop. Those are the access points actually to this site. So as Matt had mentioned, he's been involved, and I also have been involved in developing several Tractor Supplies, not only through Connecticut, but throughout New England. We have several plans, and all the plans that are in your package are included in this, other than the photo being put behind it. So what we're looking to do is to construct a new 1-story retail building. Again, the yellow is the property line demarcating our site from the Stop and Shop site. We'd be putting this new brown rectangle in. That's a 1-story structure. It has a total footprint. Let me get to my cheat sheet here. Total footprint of 23,957 square feet. In addition to, off on the west, this gray rectangle is what we call a fenced-in outside display area. This is a concrete pad, has a display area of about 16,269 square feet. In addition to, there will be a greenhouse in this area for about another 3,400 square feet that would be attached to the side of the building that customers can go from the building into the greenhouse area. The fenced-in outside display area, this is an area where Tractor Supplies displays products that are too big to actually be in the store. I'm sure you're familiar with the Tractor nearby, there is a fenced area within their parking lot. That's their present fenced-in outside display area. What they tend to have in that area are larger products, such as implements for tractors. They don't sell actual tractors, but if you need a brush hog, a York rake, Harley rake, or fencing, the other thing that we'll have is corral for horses. A piece of corralling for a horse is a tube steel section, which is about 4 feet high and about 20 feet long. So you can't really put it in the store or maneuver through the store. So it's put into this outside display area. The outside display area is circumference with a 8-foot-high chain link fence. There's a gate at either end. So when customers come in, they can go into the store, they can go out into the outside display, come back to the store, make their purchase, and then a sales representative would come out, open the gate for them so they can actually drive their vehicle in, load up, and then drive out the backside. So all the loading happens in that area. In addition to,
Before you turn that page,
sure.
just before you turn the page, the structure in dark, come down toward the new road, yeah. That's the old
That's
Webster
the
Bank? and
Webster Bank.
Okay.
Webster Bank,
Thank
and
you.
then that's the
Thank you.
gas canopy that's
Yep,
on Stop and Shop.
the gas,
That's the
so-
gas canopy on the
Yes,
Stop
okay.
Shop property.
Thank you.
Yes.
so you're behind all of that?
Yeah.
Got it.
So again, I apologize about this photo. It looks a lot better on my computer screen than I plotted out here. But this is just a blow up of the area we're looking at developing. So in addition to the concrete pad for the outside display, there's another area off on the west side. It's about a 3,000 square foot area. This would be part of the parking that we'll be building on this site. This area is typically used for display of landscape trailers. The black low landscape trailers, not box trailers, but the landscape trailers they sell. So this is about a 3,000 square foot area. In addition to, there's a sidewalk along not only the fenced-in outside display, but also the store. The sidewalk is not only used for access into the building, but it's also used for display of seasonal products such as lawnmowers, snow blowers. They do tend to have some ATV type equipment. It's the same thing you see at the existing Tractor Supply. In the back, you see one more gray rectangle. That is our loading area.
On that loading area, we'll have a portable ramp that they can back up to the truck and then be able to load, unload, and actually come into the rear door of the building or into the FOD or the fenced-in outside display area. So there may be many questions. Number one is to, why is Tractor Supply moving from one site to this site? Basically, it's outdated. They've really worked on their model. There's been significant changes over the past few years, especially with COVID and the pandemic. They really changed their footprint in the building, and they feel it's time to upgrade and get something that's more appropriate and kind of outgrown the existing one. So this is an opportunity. This is the ideal site for them to be able to move to. As I mentioned, access to the site, all we're doing is we're leaving the existing parking lot alone. Right now, the parking lot ends right about here. We're going to bring one drive aisle down the west side. This drive aisle is to accommodate the delivery vehicles that would service the Tractor Supply. In addition to, it'll be a new path for Stop and Shop delivery vehicles so they can go around the perimeter site and not go through customer traffic areas like they presently do. We'll be extending from the existing paved area up to the face of the store. We tried to do that to accommodate so the building can come as far forward as we can. Per your zoning regulations, I need a minimum of 80 parking spaces. Based upon the configuration that we're looking at an additional of about 100 parking spaces. A lot of this is to make sure we don't impact the existing uses that are in that site. So we're going to basically extend what we call two tiers of parking. So it's about 128 feet to the front sidewalk that will be extending the pavement, and then put the building as close as we possibly can. Utilities. So we're lucky with utilities. There's actually a water main. It's all the way extended all the way down the back of the existing shopping center to a fire hydrant along our westerly boundary line. We'll be extending off that water main with not only fire, but domestic water service through our parking lot and then into the face of the building. There's also a sanitary lateral that's been extended up to the property line, so we'll be tying gravity sanitary sewers into the building in this location also. And then along the easterly side, CLMP or Eversource already has electrical service and a transformer, not all the way down to the site, but just behind the bank. So we would be extending out of that transformer to a new transformer to service this new building. But there already is an easement in place. That new electrical service would extend right along the edge of the existing pavement. So there's a shoulder right along the edge, would be right in that area. Drainage, as I mentioned, drainage was a little bit interesting on this site. When you take a look at it, what you find is, again, the wetlands is actually about 6 to 7 feet higher than the existing parking lot. So what happens is basically from this wetlands area along the south and the wetlands area on the west, everything is draining down to this northeasterly corner of the site. There's actually 2 existing catch basins in the grass area. Those catch basins collect the majority of the runoff from the site, and then there's a pipe out that goes to the wetlands off to the east. We find the catch basins, we've investigated the catch basins. What we found is that the pipe goes out. We never find any backed up water, but we can't find the outlet of the pipe. So it's buried somewhere into the wetlands. What we're proposing to do is to put a new stormwater management system in. We'll have a series of catch basins within the parking area and the drive aisles. So basically this whole western portion of the parking area and drive aisle will be collected by a new drainage system consisting of deep sump catch basins with hooded outlets. That will discharge to a stormwater management basin at the back portion of the site. This will be an excavated basin. We're not anticipating a lot of infiltration in this because of the underlying soils. They're presently eudorthins. It used to be, looks like a quarry operation, and we're finding that the permeability rate is very, very low in the soil. We are proposing, as part of this basin, we're going to put a mixture of organic soil in it and replanting it with moisture-tolerant plants so we can establish a wet bottom in that basin. The basin is designed in a manner so the bottom 1 foot of the basin will basically treat the first inch of runoff, we call it our first flush of runoff, before it goes through an outlet structure. The outlet structure is designed to not only basically to treat that first inch, but also to attenuate any increase in flow for any other storm event up to a 100-year event. In addition to, along the easterly side of the building, we have another small basin that we're proposing. This basin was designed to pick up all the roof leaders for the proposed building. Although it's clean water coming off the roof, this basin's primary design is to attenuate the flow as it comes off the building before tying into a drainage system. And then off on the far west side, we have this whole display pad sloped at about a 2% grade. We're proposing a bioretention swale along that whole side. This, once again, would be an excavated channel, but the bottom 30 inches would be would be replaced with a topsoil sand mix to allow for some filtration through the sand, then also planted with appropriate plants with a catch basin at the end, so eventually gets into the drainage system. All those drainage systems would eventually tie into a new drainage system along the front portion of the property. Rather than relying onto the existing pipe that we can't find, what we're proposing to do is to replace it from this existing catch basin towards this. But rather than having a direct point discharge, as we believe presently exists somewhere out there in the wetlands, we're proposing to replace it with what we call a level spreader. So a level spreader will take the flow, dissipate it over a much wider length, re-simulating sheet flow, which would prevent erosion as it continues on to that wetlands area. What I typically like to do for a level spreader is we take a series of concrete galleries, similar to what you would use for a septic system. We would excavate a channel about 2 feet deep. We would set the galleries down into the channel. On the uphill side, we bury it. We tie the pipe into it. On the downhill side, what we do is we keep the upper 2 feet exposed, so you actually see the openings in the side of the galleys. And then we put about a 6-foot riprap pad outside of it. What this does is the bottom 2 feet of that galley, the water can go into it. It does promote groundwater recharging for that first 2 feet. So it's another LAD measure to promote groundwater recharge. If you do get the bigger events, bigger storm events, the upper 2 feet goes through the holes in the side of the galley, across the riprap pad, re-simulates sheet flow, continues on to the wetlands, continues to feed the wetlands as it does today. We've done it on several different tractor supplies. I've done it on all the developments I've done. I've used this for probably 30-something years at this point. And it's worked phenomenal. What I like about it compared to other level spreaders is there's not a lot of maintenance. A lot of times when you're doing a level spreader, it's basically a channel excavated at an elevation or a grade of 0. They tend to fill up with debris, brush, dead trees, and they don't function properly. All the ones I've done, I've never had an issue because it's actually underground. The majority of it's underground, and all you need to do is just look at the face and keep the face exposed. So we, as part of this application, we did prepare an extensive stormwater management report. I'm happy to say, based upon all the modeling that we created, and when we take a look at the pre-development flows going to this wetland and the post-development flows, we're pretty much matching what's going on. There's actually a very slight decrease. You never can do it actually perfect, but I have a very slight decrease. But the advantage is right now, it's a disturbed site and everything, the sheet flows off the edge. With this development, everything is captured by some type of a stormwater management system and brought through a controlled system before it discharges to the adjoining wetlands. So what does this all mean? We have these wetlands on the property. You have a 75-foot regulated area from the wetlands on the property. The site was previously developed or graded to accommodate some type of development. It was previously disturbed for that purpose. The majority of the wetlands, as I mentioned, off to the west and off to the south, seem to be remnants of the prior operation. The wetlands off to the east is natural wetlands, hasn't been disturbed, so that's the one we've concentrated on not impacting. But by the time we're done with this development, this line here, let's see if it shows better on this plan. Nope, they didn't print it in red today, so. So the crosshatch area you see in here would be my activity within the 100-foot up, or sorry, the 75-foot upland review area. for all the activities, which consist of the construction of the building, construction of the rear access drive, fenced-in out displays, and the stormwater management basins, we're looking at a total activity of 42,120 square foot in the 75-foot upland review area. Again, it's important to note that, yes, it seems like it's a large amount in this area, but nothing presently and in the future drains towards those wetlands area. Everything is draining away from the wetlands area. The one wetlands area that we really want to be careful with was the wetlands area off to the east. If you go out there, there's an existing edge of fill slope. We're not going anywhere beyond that edge of fill slope. We held that as the limits of our development. And again, what goes off over land right now will be captured by our system and safely discharged. With that, I'm going to conclude my presentation. We're hoping that the commission would feel that this would be an insignificant activity, seeing we do not have any direct impacts to the wetlands on this particular property. And I'll gladly answer any questions the commission may have at this point.
So did you mention how many parking spaces you would need and where that parking lot would be, and then also
Yeah,
delivery?
So this dark gray area is our new parking area.
Okay.
We technically need 80. We have 100 new parking spaces. A lot of this is basically with negotiations with the budding property owner. We don't want to interrupt any of their operations or potential. So it's been a lot of making things work to make everybody happy here. We tried to do it in a way we can minimize it, or we tried to do a single row of parking wouldn't have done it. And I'll be quite honest, and I talked to Matt about this as we're going through the design process. If I ended up going with a single row and I moved the building even further forward, it looks like it's flat out there. It's actually about a 3% grade. So what actually happens is, although it seems very easy to put a building in there, by the time I come off this existing parking lot, I meet ADA, American Disability Act requirements, which requires basically 2% grade of that parking lot. Get to the front door of that building, okay, and that sets my elevation for the building. It actually was requiring a significant cut and removal of material. I was actually, if I pull that building 68 feet forward, I need to remove 14,000 yards of material from the site. By moving it, the additional bay back, it allowed me to raise the grade, and actually I don't need to remove any material from the site. So I simply just moving it back, and it brought the building up basically about 1.5 feet in elevation.
You talked about the abutting owners of the property, Ledgebrook area. What about Orford Healthcare and the bank?
So we're dealing with Ledgebrook Associates, who are the property owner.
They own that property where the bank is? And
Yeah, they own the whole entire plaza. The only piece they don't own is the muffler shop out front.
Okay.
That's a separate piece of property. So we're dealing with two parts. Correct if I'm wrong, Matt. We're dealing with Matt does the negotiation for the purchase and all the agreements with everybody. We're dealing with Ledgebrook, who's the owner of the overall plaza, but Stop and Shop also has to sign off on it because they have restrictions on what can be done and not done out here. So it's been an interesting process to be able to achieve this and get Tractor Supply to come into here.
There's essentially only one, if you wanna call it, neighbor who's an owner that abuts my property. You know, the occupants of that property are tenants of that owner. And so, and then there's the seller of the property that I'm acquiring in the back, who's a separate person. So there's the seller, and then there's the neighbor who owns the Stop and Shop parcel with the gas station and the bank included. And so there's not that many people involved.
So you're purchasing the property that's the southern abutter?
I believe it's south, yeah.
Everything outlined in yellow, so it's 10.66 acres. So the piece out front's a different property owner. That's Ledgebrook Realty.
Okay, sorry, I misunderstood. So, but there are butters outside of the yellow that aren't Ledgebrook, right?
No, so the whole plaza is owned by Ledgebrook. The only thing that's not owned by Ledgebrook is there's a little muffler shop out in the front. That's actually on a separate piece of property.
Yeah, but she's saying around
Oh, yeah.
the permit road.
No, we're not.
The wooden side.
Yeah, so
There's nobody there, but there's, I'm sure somebody else.
Property owner.
Yeah, there's other property owners, yeah, definitely.
And then you'll have cross easements for ingress and egress?
There already is.
There's
There's an existing, because this is all one parcel at one point.
Okay.
And it had been subdivided off previously. The Monroe piece in the front got subdivided off, and then the piece that I'm acquiring was subdivided off into, so there's essentially 3 lots when there was 1.
Okay.
And the tenants were established before the subdivision, so the tenants' rights got extended onto those individual parcels. And then there was an REA, an access agreement that's in place that protects everybody.
What's your time sequence for a project like this?
It typically takes about 6 months, but we're heading into winter now, so, you know, it's tricky. If we can get our approvals, and get started with construction beginning of October, which is probably aggressive, you know, then I should be able to complete it in that 6-month timeline. If I get a building enclosed before the Christmas season, before and get my first course of pavement down before the plants close, then I can work through the winter time. If not, then I'll do a little bit of earthwork. You know, if I can't start by the 1st of October, then I'll do a little bit of earthwork in the latter part of this year. Probably put it on pause and continue on in the spring of next year, in which case it'll be completed by this time, 2023.
So in this kind of scenario, what we've done in the past is we basically prep the site, get the foundation in, and sometimes even go as far as put the binder course down for the parking area. That allows us, if the weather permits for the winter, actually to do the constructions of the winter. When we're doing a tractor supply, unless things have changed, typically what's happened, there's 2 times of the year they're going to take ownership, or they're going to take not ownership. What actually happens is Matt owns the property. Matt is the developer. He builds the building, owns the building. They sign a long-term lease with him. So when they would actually occupy the building as a tenant, typically happens September, October, and then there's another period in the spring when they occupy the building. So if we can get going on early and get a lot of the earthwork and the site work done and get that shell going, similar, if anyone's been by the new tractor supply in Simsbury, Connecticut, we had a very similar time frame. We just did that one this past year, and we did all the site work early in the year, and we built the building through the winter and opened this past spring.
What's the measurement of wetlands that will be disturbed?
No wetlands. There's no direct disturbance to wetlands. It's all in the upland review area. So the upland review area activity, which I'm lumping everything together. Again, you have 4 different wetlands areas on this site. The total area is 42,124 square feet.
What's the distance between the area that's going to be disturbed and the wetlands?
Yeah.
So my closest point, it's definitely a good question. My closest point is this little corner right here. That point is 17 feet off the wetlands.
Wow.
But it's down gradient from it. Okay, it's already disturbed. It's an excavated channel. It's not the natural wetlands that's on this side. If they had completed what they were supposed to, that wetlands wouldn't have been there.
But so setting aside the excavated channel, what's the next closest?
So again, you
Natural wetlands.
have one here on the western side. This is man-made too, okay, but it's at the toe of the slope. That's your next closest point. I have one little section that's 30 feet, again up gradient. As I get closer to the actual rock face there, I'm about 50 feet away. I say that the original wetlands is well within the conservation easement to the back portion of the property. At that point, I'm about 200 feet away. And then on the side here, where it's actually just off site, I'm a good 50 feet away from that wetlands. It's all within the existing disturbed area. There's no tree clearing other than some overgrown shrubs that have occurred over the years from lack of operation. There's no larger trees that need to be cleared as part of this project. It's all existing disturbed graded areas.
Have you been in contact with the owners of the wetland area that's east of your parcel?
No, we have not.
The area that you alluded to before with Mary Ann's first question, the 17-foot distance, that's an area where you're going to bring trucks back through there?
Correct.
And when you pave out the truck area, is it still 17 feet?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the 17 feet, it's not the
Yeah,
building.
it's no, it's not the building, no,
Oh,
it's the
beyond
pavement.
the-
It's actually, I'm figuring grading that I need to do beyond that area of pavement, the actual disturbed area I need to go to. So I'm figuring along that back, by the time I'm regrade, I have another additional 5 feet for a shelf, like a snow shelf on that back area.
So the 17 feet will exist after all your
Correct.
construction is
It
done?
actually, to the curb line, it's gonna be more, it's gonna be about
Do you
20.
need a rain garden in there to absorb anything that might run off down?
Well, that's what this basin in the
I know
far
that,
south is designed for.
But it's all the way on the off side of the building.
It's one to the south. So the very back, this one will pick up basically all these drive aisles, this whole loading area to the back.
Pick up all of that.
Correct. That's the biggest basin. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think on the eastern side, you're saying there's a catch basin.
There's another drainage basin here. This one picks up all the roof leader areas. And then on this far west side, we have the bioretention swale that picks up that concrete pad.
Yep. Michael wants to say something.
Go ahead, Michael, I'm sorry, I'm
Thank you,
looking
Mr.
the other
Chair.
way.
So you noted that you have first flush captured in the proposed stormwater basin at the rear of the property.
Correct.
Do you have first flush captured for the entire site between your infiltration basin and the two stormwater basins, or are you gonna have sheet flow across the parking lot in the front?
The parking lot in the front goes to the existing catch basins that are out there.
Okay, so you've got existing catch basins out there. With those, are you doing any replacement on those since they are?
We could replace them with hooded outlets or some type of alternate structure to capture, any sediment that comes off that area. We could offer that up.
You noted that you've got 100-year storm captured between the whole system into the level spreader, correct?
Correct, 100 years. When you model the whole thing, it's modeled to have no increase in flow for a 100-year storm event.
Cool. With the proximal areas closest to the wetlands, are you proposing for your landscape plan any additional plantings or other protections for any nearby wetlands?
So we are not proposing anything right now. We could consider some type of additional planting along that area. The one thing, I think it's an easy, not that it's a mitigation measure, but an improvement to that one isolated wetlands. If you look at the pictures, it's littered with debris. It's got old tires and other things in it. I think we could simply go in and, number one, move the debris, in addition to plant some additional wetland shrubbery around it to provide wildlife habitat around that, and also keep people out of it as a barrier. So that could be right along the edge of that drive aisle that's along the back.
Was your wetlands delineation done at a time where it would account for vernal pools? Or did your wetland scientist make any findings on vernal pools?
He was out there through March and April,
Okay.
so yes.
I think that's me.
Customarily, we would request an independent engineer's report to address the concerns. Any-
Not always.
You can, but
Not
there's
always, I'm just-
zero wetlands in
I'm
it.
just
You
putting it
can,
out.
it's up to you.
I'm
You
just-
are the commission.
I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah, it's well within your right, but there is,
You believe it's unnecessary.
I don't like to make determinations about engineering as I'm not an engineer. This is a really well-done plan.
Okay.
This
Yeah,
plan's really, really strong. If they were all like this, we wouldn't be here as long every evening.
Yeah, I feel
And the
good.
next concern I have before, Russ, is any public hearing necessary?
Well, they're asking for this not to be considered a significant activity because of their drainage plan.
Public interest also.
But, yeah, like, because they have not spoken to the neighbors,
The neighbor is the state of Connecticut,
it is.
to the east, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
No one speaks to that.
Still a
If
significant activity though.
If I may, Mr. Chair, so, forgive me, this came in recently, so I haven't had a chance to do my customary, review for, zoning as well. Do you require variances or approvals from planning and zoning?
We require a special permit for planning and zoning, definitely. I don't know of any, I went through everything and I could not find any variances that we require.
So you will already be going before planning and zoning for a special permit, which
So
means there will already be a
correct.
public hearing
Correct.
for this.
Right.
So if the commission finds that there is no public hearing needed for significant impact, the other reason that we customarily hold a public hearing would be for public interest, but there will also be a public hearing already
For zoning.
for zoning.
So then you're leading to suggest that it could be an agent determination?
God, no. No, do not give this project to me for an agent determination. I am simply saying that, this does not necessarily
Customarily,
need to be.
when an applicant comes before us, it's a two-step process.
Yeah, no, I
One, we listen to what your proposal is. Typically, we will accept your documentation. We'll have a month to sort of brainstorm it, visit the site, look at what you're saying, and come back the next month, and we'll take action, all things being equal.
Sure.
Is there anything else that we want of them to come back to us for next month?
So what I'm picking,
I just had one question. So the owner is Ledgebrook, but you're the applicant, so is the property
No.
under contract?
The property is under contract, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
The owner's signature is on the
It
application.
is? Okay.
Yes, yep, the owner submitted a signature.
All right, perfect.
I think to answer your question, Steve, I think it would be good to see some proposal for some planting, some landscaping, yeah.
yeah, no, I don't think there's any problem with that. That's very simple. We can have it back to you in a week and, with the additional landscaping. And at the same time, I'm probably just gonna throw the recommendation in there that we just clean up, go in, pick out any debris that's in the wetlands.
Do that without, I mean, do we need a?
Well, that'll be part of this approval, would be to
Yeah.
go in and
Okay.
do that cleanup, because it can be, it's for the same site, so it can be handled. at the same
And even, there's an area even behind the wetlands, between the larger wetlands, where there's some debris, and it'll be to our advantage just to go in and clean up any debris that's in
Now,
there.
you're not gonna bring any equipment in there?
No equipment in the wetlands, nothing, no. Again, it's tires, it's small things, it's something manually we
You
can
know,
pick out.
yeah, I see, I saw it, yeah.
I would like to see, native species that are for a wetland area,
So like a wetlands buffer, like some silky dogwood and some other.
Poison ivy.
No.
I think we have a list, don't we, on the
Yeah.
website?
The state of Connecticut has its
Yeah.
standard, yeah.
native species that are,
Appropriate for it.
Gary, you're quiet. You good?
No, I'm good with it, very good presentation. Everything looks good.
Okay. I don't think there's any other concerns that we haven't addressed yet. So we have a motion to accept the Michael, then.
Yeah, so it'd be, you accept and also find it not a significant impact and therefore not needing a public hearing.
Jackie, you had a comment on that? Do you feel it is significant or?
No, I think as long as there's a public hearing with
The other place,
zoning.
okay.
I think that's fine.
Okay, so that's good. All right, is there a motion to accept?
I'd like to make a motion to accept application IWWC 22-32 for Palm Coast Capital LLC, New Hartford Road, construction of a Tractor Supply Company retail store. We are not, this is not shown to be a significant impact. We will not be requiring a public hearing.
Is there a second? Second. Gary, all those in favor of accepting? Aye, it's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Appreciate
sir.
your time. Thank you very
Good luck with
much.
the project, and see you next month.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, the next application is 22-33. It's a modification of 20-31 and 22-04. The owner is Sandy Drive 3 LLC, Peter Daddio, 240 Perch Rock Trail. And the proposal is a brick paver patio and an electrical conduit and pole. Anybody here from the applicant? Did we hear from them?
No, I have not. I don't think Michael has either. We expected to see him tonight.
All right, I'm gonna make a motion to simply accept the application as submitted without prejudice. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Jackie, all those in favor of simply accepting? Okay.
I heard that he had submitted his application, but I did not hear anything about requesting a continuance, whether there would anyone be here, so.
Just so you're aware, we just accepted it without a conversation. Okay, the next application is 22-34, Joseph Stawicki and Barbara Stawicki, 135 West Wakefield Boulevard, replacement of stairs and wall at driveway. Would you please introduce yourself, sir?
Yes, Joe Stawicki, 135 West Wakefield Boulevard, place Joey. Yes.
Okay, tell us what you...
Elaborate presentations to the minimalistic, yeah. At this point, what the issue is, the stairs going up from our driveway up towards the house have deteriorated a bit. It's curved. The best way to see is probably the top view. It's only three pages with what's submitted. Because the wall has issues, the steps definitely, the wires is 11 inches as opposed to something that's more friendly. The proposal is to have a new location of the steps going up to a platform level, then take the turn rather than the current curved step. Series of steps going up. And hope it falls within 75 feet of the lake area. Again, it's across the street from the lake. This process requires me to come here.
Is the
Might
top
wanna
view
have a chance-
present?
Excuse me?
Is the top view the present view?
Yes.
No.
No, the top view is the proposed view, so I did have a chance to stop by. So, Mr. Wiggy and I talked about this one. As it currently exists, it appears that for most of this area, what exists is it's a series of railroad ties or like half railroad ties with brick in between them. And so it's these gradual series of individual steps. That's falling apart. The railroad ties at this point are badly decayed. And they come down to a very steep area with what appears to be a retaining wall and a kind of castle spirally staircase. They're very high steps, so the owner's trying to replace them. The slope is pretty steep. He and I talked about this, about the fact that he does have a survey, but he's going to need to get, when it comes to the very steep area down near the base of the property where he's going to need to do most of the stair work, replacing the current stairs, he's going to need to get that survey updated to show the proposed project. May need engineering work done and an engineer retained because it's on a 50% grade because it's very sharp. Only the bottom part of this project is really within the wetlands review area. Most of this falls above it. It would be a helpful improvement for his mobility across the site, for mobility of most people across the site. It's easy to trip on those. I did once when I was walking around. But it is going to need a bit more in terms of other approvals beyond just wetlands. There was some question about whether or not he can put a retaining wall close to the street. That also requires the proposed location of that wall to be located on the survey because West Wakefield Boulevard, as we know, is 50 feet across. West Wakefield Boulevard that we drive is not necessarily 50 feet across. So where people's properties end is always a question. So these are comments that we noted. I believe we meant out there. The days are deceiving me. Was it yesterday? Was it Monday? Was it last week? Tuesday, which was yesterday. Yes. Okay, because we always meet on Wednesdays. So there are several things to do. The commission could wait to render a decision until a survey with the proposed plans superimposed over the top of them is located. Mr. Zwicky will have to go for zoning approvals for steep slopes outside of this. But with the correct plans.
Well, we're only accepting it, so let's not go that far yet. What does Mr. Zwicky need to submit to us so that we can consider accepting it? That's where we're at.
Have his proposal without a survey.
I have a site survey, I have a 1938 2020.
So we're gonna
survey
ask for,
of-
we're gonna ask for an updated
But-
survey.
Which,
Yeah, you have the 2020, you would just have the superimposition of what you're asking for on that. Yes.
okay, so
Okay?
But the 20,
Modified survey.
sorry, does the 2020 survey, it's a site plan, it has the existing, everything that exists on the property currently is on that
yeah, not
plan.
up to the house, but just by the road.
Oh, I see.
Mr. Zwicky, just for your,
Incorporates this area.
just for your information, we don't have what you have.
Right, I just.
Okay, so having said that, whatever we're asking for, when you submit it, you're gonna have to submit multiple copies or however that works, so that we all have it for next month, so to speak. All right, we're not gonna work off of your copy as opposed to what we have, and typically we need it the Thursday, the latest the Thursday before the meeting, because Pam will have the packages, our packets ready by Friday.
So what's going to be required is, again, engineered,
An updated
proposal
survey.
for planning a zone.
Well, planning and zoning is a separate commission. Starting at wetlands, you definitely need your survey with your plan superimposed over the top of it. And you'll need 10 copies for the commission, and that's what will let the commission best consider your project, having heard your initial presentation.
But will we consider just the part that's within our purview or the whole thing? In other words, if he needs engineering for the steep part, do we have to approve that part too? And so does he need the engineer
If
for that?
he's
for
going
us?
to be, yeah, so if Mr. Stewicki is going to have engineering with retaining walls, and there could potentially be some work that's going to be required there, that should also come before this commission. So what the total sum of his plan is, once it's on the sheet, if engineering is required, then it would need to be shown for you to review, yes.
Because there's another part of this we're not really seeing, there's something on the other side of the,
So if you look at the plans that you have here,
right.
with these 3 steps, this area at the base, where the
Oh,
stairs come
okay,
down.
now I see it, proposed retaining wall.
They have these proposed retaining walls. You have I'm just looking for the last piece here.
I think I see, so, but is
right.
that something that would have to go before zoning
Yes,
anyway, and they're gonna need to
Yes,
see a set of
absolutely.
plans,
So there's gonna need to be
so-
something, and the important part is between the proposed retaining wall by the road and what I'm gonna call the very top of the return wall by the stairs here, that's like 50% grade. It gets very steep, and then it tapers to be 10 to 12% of along this whole pathway. So this area down here is pretty extensive. This area down here is also what's close enough to the water for
To be in our
to
review
be in
area.
your purview for excavation and movement within the water area.
Adjacent to the driveway, I see remove existing stair, I don't know what the last word is.
There's a staircase there. So the staircase on the plan right now is,
It says driveway, then it says upstairs. And then to the right of that, I don't know what it says.
Landing up.
No, remove existing something.
stairs.
Stairs.
I don't have
That last word is stairs?
Yeah.
that page.
But
Yes, I do.
you're pointing to a retaining wall.
Yeah, so there's a garage and there's pavement, and then where it says remove existing stairs, that is like a stone wall, but it's circular. It's a circular wall.
There's a staircase
So-
there now. It's going to be a different, slightly different located staircase
And
after.
because we do need engineered plans,
Yes,
only
I
because
can.
you're talking
Yeah.
like from that,
I didn't realize that was it.
the bottom of the pavement up is over to the top of the garage is like 7 feet at least. So we do.
There is wall there already, but I don't. Yeah. It's almost certainly going to require modifications to that.
Since we're talking about what we'll need at the next meeting, I'm sure you know that Pam and Michael can help guide you to make sure you bring in all the right stuff, but anything that is within the wetlands review area should also have a construction sequence, and also you need to let us know what your sedimentation abatement plan is gonna be and where you're gonna put your silt fencing and all that. Okay, cool.
Which is right next to the road, so of course that would be required.
Yeah.
is an engineered portion of the wall right next to the garage. And then the existing stairway with the slight curvature, that would be filled in or rebuilt with the new steps just to the left of it, as proposed, going up to the platform level. And so it's
And are you gonna keep that stone wall there, the one that's existing now
next to
with the garage?
Yes, that's the
Okay.
engineer. Leonard did that, I'll have to go back and see David, but that was
Batista.
engineered maybe 20 years ago.
That's a nice
That
wall,
was
you kept it.
put up. The rest, each to be replaced again.
Okay, there ain't,
Let's see, 54 years now, going up and down that hill. That's the reason I have 2 metal knees now, and back surgery a couple of years.
is there anything else we'd like to see from the applicant? Okay, is there a motion to accept?
And you're finding it as well.
Oh, thank you, Pam. Do we
Make
need,
a motion to.
wait, hang on, Jack. Do we need to find this as a significant activity or public interest?
No.
Okay, go ahead, Jack.
I make a motion to accept IWWC application 2234, owner Joseph Stewicki and Barbara Stewicki, 153 West Wakefield Boulevard. Proposal is replacement of stairs and wall at driveway.
Is there a second?
Second.
Gary, all those in favor of accepting? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good evening.
All right,
Thank you.
going back to new business, Camp Wani, anybody here? All right, what's our position on this? You're here for Camp Wani? Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see you get up.
I thought you were here before.
But don't let me disturb you.
No, good. Were you here before when we passed over you? Seriously?
Yes.
We
I guess he
called,
wasn't here.
Mind if we run out to the bed?
oh, okay.
Maybe
No, because you were earlier on the agenda, and,
I'm still here.
okay, good. Go ahead. Introduce yourself, please.
Dave Stricker, I'm the owner of Camp Wani.
Thank you. And what are you asking for, Mr. Stricker?
To be honest,
Nothing.
don't know.
Well, you spent $215, so get your money's worth out of what you don't know.
It was a question I asked Michael, why am I paying? What am I paying to do?
Mike, what's he doing?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this was an enforcement action that came to our attention earlier in the year. I sent out a letter to Mr. Stricker because we had received calls from concerned residents on the lake that there was sand piled on the beach at Camp Wani. We went out, we got pictures. There were big piles of sand on the beach at Camp Wani, so I sent Mr. Stricker a letter. Mr. Stricker came in and said, that's standard operating procedure that we've been doing for 30 years. And I said, is standard operating procedure to pile sand on the beach? And he said, yes. And I asked him to bring in an application explaining what it is that he's doing with this sand. Because to me, if knowing nothing else, if you have big piles of sand on the beach, it could be that you are bringing dump trucks of sand in, dropping it on your beach, smoothing it out, having a nice pristine beach every year because you're dumping sand. Mr. Stricker maintained that it wasn't that. So I asked him to bring in an application, explain what it is that he's doing with this sand every single year on the beach, bring me pictures, explain the practice, get permission from the commission, so that way, as it goes forward, it is an approved activity by the wetlands going forward. So Mr. Stricker provided a copy of the partial of his survey along the beach where this was located. This is not the full survey. This is the partial related to the beach. Camp Wani is a large site, and I believe that should be in everyone's packets, as well as there was, he brought in a letter today, which I put on your desk at the start, which was his explanation for his activity.
Just so for the record, you're talking about this letter?
Yes.
There's no date on it, may I put a date on today?
Sure.
Okay, today is what, August?
17th.
Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Chair. From my side, that is everything.
So, just explain to us how the sand arrives in a pile every year and then sort of dissipates every year.
Well, essentially, this is how we rate the beach.
Okay.
Instead of taking hand labor and doing all this long
definitely in May, we go to that beach. Pile it up, clean it, move it back.
Move it back, respread it, or just respread it?
We haven't bought any sand since Sandy.
But you're saying you just scrape it back. You're saying you don't bring sand from another area.
There's nothing new.
Okay, I gotcha.
I think that, the commission should create some kind of policy, because there's maintenance that needs to be done on a sandy beach in the lake, in every lake. And there's no policy to my mind that I know of, that tells you what you can and can't do or how to maintain it. So I think the commission needs to come up with, at some point, a policy.
In a subcommittee, you can
Anybody on the?
Thank you for volunteering, Jim.
Anybody
Jeff
on the
just
commission
created a
have?
subcommittee.
Who's got a sandy beach on the commission? Raise your hand.
So this was,
Yeah.
Mr. Malinelli, so this was something, that, this was something I attempted to follow up on. I spoke to Jim Rollins, Public Works Director, to find out, does the town do anything? So the town has Holland Beach and Risha Beach at First Bay of Highland Lake. I asked him, do we do anything like this? He didn't know. He's never been involved in it. I haven't had a chance to talk to the Parks and Rec Director, Tanya Rasucci, yet. So that was something I was going to talk to her about. I didn't see it ever last year or this spring.
You mean on the Highland Lake beaches?
Right, on the Highland Lake
Yeah,
beaches.
it hasn't been done in a long time. It
Yeah.
used to be done, I think, years ago.
They don't even take the goose stuff up. So
I
worry
know
about
on
the
ocean-
sand.
On an ocean beach, they run the York rakes over it.
Shore rakes are common along ocean beaches.
Yeah, I mean, I would think they do it on Risha Beach and Holland Beach.
How long, how wide is your beach, waterfront wise?
90 yards.
90 yards, 180 feet.
270 feet.
270, I'm sorry, thank you. We're
What's-
good, I mean, it's like, you have debris in your yard, you clean it up, so to speak. You're not adding anything, and we'll tend to believe you.
Try and make it safe and better.
Yeah, and
So-
that's a concern of ours too.
Did you go into, did you drop the water in the fall, the water level stays the same year round?
There are times like now when it's a little lower than it is normally because we haven't had rain in forever, but,
So when it
not-
washes into the lake, how do you get it out?
hand shovel.
Hand shovel.
Alright,
Is that acceptable?
There you go.
I would like to know.
It's
Is
been
shoveling
there
acceptable?
for, I mean, they've been doing this, and this beach and probably Park Pond Club has their little beach there. They've been, seem to be, have been
And
doing this
Not bringing any
for a long
sand.
time, but I don't know if people bring.
But are you
Or-
okay doing it with a York rake, or are you okay with putting it in a massive pile? And what's the operation to sift through it? I mean,
Well, it's not a massive pile, the pictures show it's several small piles.
Yeah,
well, I mean, the pictures, the complaints that were received, it was larger piles. Maybe massive is unfair, but.
the other thing is, with a large pile of sand, if it rains, it's gonna wash down somewhere also.
Well, so that's,
That's the
Sandy
concern.
Beach that already exists, there's some measure of maintenance that has to occur. I guess you may wanna review what form that maintenance takes, and like you say, it's typically done with a York beach, I mean, with a
York
York
rake.
rake.
Well, but you
You
can't
make it
put that in
by
the
hand?
water, because you can't put a machine in the water.
Well, you're not.
But can you put a shovel in the
Well,
water?
I didn't even think that, I think you might be talking about something else, in terms of maintaining sand in the water. Sand outside of the water, what kind of policy would you wanna see, or what?
I mean, I think at this point, we're not gonna develop a policy and with this application. We can think about it and consider something, but,
So then he should, and I haven't seen the letter yet, should he articulate what he plans to do on a regular basis? And I'm still not sure what instruments you use to sift sand, the debris out of the sand.
It's on the
Depends on
beach
how-
already.
Depends on how fine you wanna make it.
I think
A
if-
York rake isn't gonna take small stones and sharp sticks.
Does everybody here know what a
Heavy
York
debris
rake
off the
is?
top. It's just a tine rake. People-
Right, but no, does everybody know what one is?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, no, I mean, a lot of people don't, so.
But if you're sifting it through a screen, you're gonna fine.
Well, that's my question, actually. So, I read your letter. I would love to understand, why putting it into piles makes sifting through it easier. What's the process of sifting? How does that work?
Well, it just allows us to get it into a concentrated area, then we go in, we very often by hand with branches and things like that, and also we can pick through and just basically sift it, and then we spread it back all over.
You have sifters or something that you use?
Yeah, we have a Sand Pro that we use, it's a machine that has that claw action, and that's what re-spreads it back on the beach. And when you do the Sand Pro, it drags large pieces with it, and then you shovel.
So when you pull sand into the pile, about how much depth of sand are you pulling off of the top of the sandy beach to make that pile? Are you going down 2 feet, 6 inches?
I don't know the answer to the question, to be honest with you. With the camp, I make a lot of phone calls and get people to do things, but I don't necessarily do it myself.
Could you have your maintenance director
Yeah,
speak
well,
to us?
it's not a lot. It's really the top surface, the top 6 inches of the sand, I would imagine, because there's nothing that gets embedded below. We're not looking for old coins.
Typically, these rakes are used to clear seaweed off an ocean beach kind of thing.
It's about a 6
And they,
inch attachment.
yeah, some of the ones I've seen, the seaweed is scooped up in the front, goes through the machine, and the sand is poured back onto the ground, and the seaweed remains in the machine. You don't have that sophistication, and you don't have that much land.
What it does is it drags any surface, in other words, we use it on our wall grids as well, so it drags any surface, and when you pick up the attachment at the end, there is a line of debris, so rocks and other leaves.
That's what you remove?
That's what we remove.
Can you have your maintenance person just articulate that process for us? We're gonna accept your application tonight, and then, when we get more specificity as to how you do it, you can tell us why, but how, and you tell us why in the letter.
And send Michael a letter?
Yeah.
So
Do we need anything else, Michael?
the things that were brought up today in terms of the actual maintenance practice were the equipment that's used, which sounds like a Sand Pro, which is pretty standard equipment for maintaining sand, such as on golf courses or small residential beaches. Whether you're doing any sort of shore raking to pull sand back in from the near area of the lake, if you're hand shoveling it, and what kind of sifting you're doing, so any of any type. So all of that information, all parts of that process are the points that came up. The only other thing that I noted in the letter was that this has been your process over all these many years. There's been no adverse impact on water quality as indicated by required state testing for swimming water during the camping season. I know nothing about required state testing for swimming water during the camping season. What state tests do you do?
So the state health inspectors from the Office of Early Childhood require us to send water samples in 3 times during the camp season, showing that the lake water is suitable for swimming. So they check for E. coli and other bacteria.
Michael, one of the points I thought you alluded to earlier was this application became the result of a complaint.
Yes, there are other people who live on the lake. So this is not Highland Lake. This is Winchester.
Right.
Winchester Lake.
Park Pond.
No, this is Park Pond. So there are other residents around the
The
lake.
reason why I raised that specifically is, do we need to hold a public hearing so that if these people want to come and say something?
You can.
Well,
This is the result of an enforcement action. So if you want to
But
allow
it's
people
also-
to
but the
come
enforcement came about
as a
as a
result
result of a
of a
complaint.
complaint, that's entirely up to you. I'm not opposed to it. The commission also doesn't seem to think, and I don't want to put words into anyone's mouth here, but the commission does not seem to think this is particularly egregious. Seems to be the feeling that I'm getting. But if you are concerned about ensuring that the public who was concerned has a chance to hear, make sure that they are invited to speak, a public hearing is always a good way to do that. It ensures that property abutters to the camp would be notified, though the Camp's a large property. I don't even know if everyone would be notified, so, but it would certainly give everyone who was concerned a chance to speak in here.
Pam, what's the extent of notifying an abutting
I'll
neighbor?
tell you right now, you're one step ahead of me, Steve.
Has the person who complained ever followed up with you?
The person that complained there was a cease and desist, a show cause hearing that was held, and that the complainant was here for that.
They've never followed up after?
Well, there was,
Application has been slow and forthcoming. It's here now.
there was, Mr. Stricker was not present for
So
the show cause hearing.
why don't we do it right? Let's hold a public hearing.
Well,
Invite-
if I may,
Pardon?
whoever observed this, and I don't know who it is,
Is it-
nor
I don't-
nor do I
Yeah, Kim.
particularly need to know, but I think it was more the result of an uninformed observation. Had someone called me, which my neighbors do, I could have told them what we do, we could have avoided all of this.
I think it's in your best interest, certainly, for the public to be informed about why we would allow you to do something like this, if that's the right thing to do. And
I laugh because I have a combination of two kinds of neighbors, people who love the camp and people who hate the camp. And sometimes they like to just
Yeah.
come in and spout off. I've been through this many times here, and, it doesn't solve any problem.
Well, this would put it to rest.
No, it
This
wouldn't.
public hearing sure
Because-
would.
well,
We would give you permission to
just
do
went
this.
the next thing, and to
Pam,
be
how
honest,
far
I
out
was
do
out
we
of
have to go?
business- I was out of business in 2020, I had to pay $215 for this, and now I'm gonna have to pay how much to advertise and notify, and who's my neighbor on the lake?
That's what we're gonna
So-
find
so
out right now.
there's,
I don't have it.
Wait a minute.
So, there's, for public hearings, properties within 100 feet have to receive notice, there has to be a sign out front. There would be 3, the state of Connecticut would be 4, and then there would be 3 other abutting properties that would need.
All within 100 feet
Within 100 feet of my.
4, because.
Of the
Mr.
property.
of the property, yeah.
4 notices would be sent, the application fee covers the advertising cost, the town absorbs, there's
So
some
there's no-
loss.
there's no-
So the $215, there is no additional fee for a public hearing.
3 letters. Cost of mailings.
All right, do we have any kind of opinion on the part of the commission? Do we want one or not?
Part of it seems reasonable, but I also think the applicant, it's very reasonable what he's saying, that he has continually, that it may not make a difference.
Mary Ann?
I would say no, I don't think we need it.
I would do it because I think that
Say,
it,
I didn't hear the second term.
I would do it because
Okay.
there was a complaint, but if the majority thinks no, then I'm not
Well,
interested.
I think you're talking $20, and the mailings and that stuff, and we have to go till next month anyways, and.
Yeah, well,
and-
your month and my month are a little different, because once camp closes, I don't live here. I have to go
Well,
to work in
oh,
New York, so.
Okay, she won't be around in September?
I'm not around,
Well,
it's a bit of a nuisance,
All right,
I'll just say that.
I don't have a strong opinion on it, so I guess I would be fine without it.
Well, no, don't let him change your mind.
Well, again, he seems reasonable.
I understand that.
He brings the sand out and cleans it up, and you're not bringing any new sand in.
Well, yeah, he's not bringing any new sand in, he's just he's putting it in a pile, sifting it, so no,
You're
I
not-
would say no.
Jackie?
And it's seasonal.
no, he's cleaning his beach, he's not
Yeah.
doing anything wrong.
I say no.
Okay, no public hearing. All right, we good?
But
So
we
we're
can't
gonna
approve
accept this
today.
application, no, we're not gonna approve, we're gonna accept this application unless it can be an agent determination and make it quicker.
Make it
Agent
easy.
determination.
Just, Michael, you don't
If not,
have to
it's not
accept
gonna
it,
get
if you're
done.
not comfortable with it, you don't have to accept it, you just wanna communicate that to the commission.
You know what, look at it this way. You brought this to our attention.
No,
Now solve it.
We're
no,
glad
the
you did.
neighbor did, the neighbor did.
By
Come on, let's
via
go.
a complaint, though.
With all due respect, Mr. Chair,
We accept.
it's unwise
Okay.
for the public to have a perception that staff is behaving politically
Is there,
and
do we have a motion,
responding.
do we have a motion to accept this application?
Wait a minute,
What?
I would like to say something else. I mean, there was a complaint. We investigated the complaint. We're happy with what the explanation was. So why don't we just approve it?
Well, we can't.
Well,
We can't
if you
because-
find it to not be a regulated activity, but I've been going through the regulations, and because this is not a residential property, I do not believe that it falls under the maintenance clause of non-regulated activity. So I think it has to be permitted.
My comfort level is we're gonna accept it. This gentleman's gonna have his maintenance man provide us with documentation as to the process and why and, you know, the results of his venture. And at that point, we don't need any other additional information.
But
We
we're
don't-
gonna have another meeting, we're not.
Yeah, we're gonna accept it, and then if this schedule of cleaning it up is satisfactory to us,
Could we get an affidavit from you, just you didn't bring any dirt in? Sure.
yeah, that would be part of the schedule. Good.
Affidavit, did not bring it in.
Okay, we good? All right, is there a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to accept, application IWWC 22-31 for Camp Wani, 128 Wani Road for sand beach maintenance.
Finding it
Second?
not significant.
Finding it not significant, impact that we would require a public hearing. Is there a second?
Andrea, all those in favor of accepting it? Unanimous, thank you very much. See you next year, your maintenance man, if he can appear or somebody.
Yeah.
Next month.
Yeah, next month. No, he's not coming back.
Yeah, send your maintenance.
I'm right behind.
Have a nice evening.
Okay, thank you.
Nice to see you all in person.
Absolutely.
How are you?
I'm Mark Beecher, construction and testing Robert and Patricia Bernie property on 408 East Wakefield Boulevard.
So this is the last item of
Right,
business.
okay, this is the additional item.
Yes.
Before you begin, let me introduce the application. It's 22-35. The applicant is Mark Beecher, Beecher Construction. The address is 408 East Wakefield Boulevard, and the proposal is to relocate proposed propane tank. Thank you.
So what we want to do is move the tank a little bit closer to the home, primarily to save an 18-inch hemlock that the owners particularly like. And it's also an area where we suspect a lot of ledge, so we think we'll probably have a hard time getting the tank in there. So we save the tree, put it in an open area, and get away from the ledge. So you see on the drawing is the new location. So my calculator generated with the pavement, we don't have to.
Is there a propane tank that exists there already?
No, we have an
So
approved
when
location.
you say relocate, you're not relocating anything.
No, we're relocating it on the plan. So it's been approved for up by Hemlock, and we want to move it.
So this is a
Is this a modification?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yes.
What's the, okay,
So it's a modification?
Yeah.
That's the confusion.
Yeah, I remember this.
Pam, do you remember the original application?
I don't.
Okay.
This is a very steep slope, right?
It was in
This one?
2020.
No.
No,
No?
No, okay.
Oh, okay, it's a different one I was thinking
No,
of.
this
sorry.
is tucked away as the southernmost property of the Carries Point area. It's just moving the propane tank closer to the water.
Is this the house that's presently under construction now? It's a little green
Yeah.
cottage with an extension? Okay.
that little tiny house.
Yeah, no, I know where it is.
Oh, yeah, okay, yep, I got you.
I remember this application.
Taking you a long time to finish that thing. Man,
we cannot get windows, doors.
unbelievable.
We have a front entry door due on
You
July.
just put windows in last week.
The door is
tank?
It's right on the drawing. That's the, I had Berkshire Engineering redraw this. That is the proposed,
We're all having trouble locating it.
Left side, it's the hill-shaped structure, half underneath the walkway.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a buried
The
tank.
original location was the 18-inch hemlock, just a little bit further up the page, would have had to come down. So it was on about that 894 grade line by the 18-inch hemlock. Was roughly where it was on the previous plan. They've moved it closer to the water, but they've saved the tree.
Oh, it's up here, must have been.
Just in time for the woolly adulgent to eat it.
Can you bury a tank underneath a walkway?
I think so. They bury it pretty deep.
Are you burying it? Yeah, that was my question too.
Yeah.
Are you burying it?
Yes.
So you're gonna have to dig up the walkway?
Well, walkway's not there. Walkway's
Not there.
proposed.
I figured that.
Oh, it's not there.
It's not there yet.
We're very early on in the, not that early.
There's no restrictions to the tank with sewer lines or gas lines or water lines for the well or anything like that?
The mechanical contractor came in yesterday, and that's how this was discovered. He came in to pull a permit to bury the tank and started talking about relocating it.
And we said, there's definitely permits on that property. And so you gotta go back before the boards if you're gonna relocate it, because it's changed to your site plan. It's moving closer, so it's more egregious to the water, and now, well, here we are.
But less excavation.
But it's less excavation and it saves a tree. It's good.
It's 60.7 feet from the waterfront.
Yep.
And it was going to be 78.7.
It's pretty, I think, when you get down to that level, the ground is pretty flat at that point, I think.
yeah, it starts to flatten out, yeah. That's correct.
So this is a modification then?
You can approve it tonight.
Of IWWC 20-57.
57.75.
So it's the year 20. Okay, so we can accept and approve it tonight.
Yep.
Anybody see any concerns about it?
Really, it's a fairly flat slope. He does his saving a tree. It's all dug up anyway. It's all permitted.
Okay, is there a motion to accept and approve?
I make a motion to accept and approve the Inland Commission 22-35 modification of the location of a proposed tank.
I second. Thank you. Any comments? All those in favor of accepting and approval? It's unanimous? Dig away.
Thank you, guys.
Good night.
Thank you.
For a second round.
Okay, we're up to, agent determination.
I'll go quick and we can aim to be out of here by 10. I have
wanna
approved
bet?
the applications 22-29, which was the replacement of the bituminous walkway with pavers to offset the addition of the hot tub. And I have approved the stumping from Mr. Gary Ferrarati. Both of those, I have written the letters and put them to be mailed.
So they're both approved.
Yes, those are both approved by me. So Mr. Ferrarati does have planning and zoning approvals, but I believe the Martin Pines household is done. Moving on to warnings. Those were asked to be, the two warnings that were on here were asked to be retained on the agenda from the previous meeting until all matters were settled pertaining to this area. Are all matters settled? I will leave the room if they are not.
Just leave the room, please. So let the record show that Wetlands agent Michael Stankoff left the room at 9:54 as warnings were on 521 East Wakefield Boulevard and 523 East Wakefield Boulevard are being discussed. As I understand it, the buoys appear to be in the correct spot now. So if this can be verified, you know, I don't know, I think you
Is Kevin Nelligan gonna go out and verify it?
who's gonna, exactly, you know, like, I guess they appear to be in the right spot. If the commission has been out there probably to look at when the other matter was still pending, you may have visited the site, and one buoy was supposed to be located 75 feet and the other one, which, you know the whole backstory on that, if you
legally?
Nelligan has, suggested that it be drowned.
It can't be taken away.
No. Well, he suggested that we don't take any action on removing it. That's my understanding of his language.
Yeah, I can't remember the
There was an
terminology.
estoppel.
There was
Wasn't it?
a
There was
stop,
estoppel.
a
Yeah.
stop, yeah,
Yeah.
estoppel.
There was never, and this is one, there was never really a record of this buoy, right?
Well, it's a half.
Verbal.
There was, the town had no file on.
Right,
that.
so there is no, just
And in two
to
thousand
be
fifteen.
clear, the verbal doesn't, does verbal mean anything?
I don't know
Is
if
it
you
just-
want, if you need,
Milligan
you know,
said
you had Nelligan here.
Yeah,
and I believe
Nelligan
said we should
confirmed
honor it.
that it was approved by a town employee and that
Okay.
a removal of it would be an estoppel. And it's in the
Right,
minutes.
yeah, I remember,
Yeah.
yeah,
You know-
okay, I just wanted to
You know,
clarify.
my only concern about this, and it's just like an objective concern, is that the likelihood is we're gonna have two applications coming before us where the buoys are in places where navigation may be an issue. Another homeowner's right may be an issue. I'm just, you know, I don't wanna move ahead with it necessarily, nor deny it necessarily, because it's sort of like we're taking something out of context and we're dealing with it separately, and then we're putting it back into the picture again, but it's already, you know,
Well-
we've now taken action on it.
I agree with you that it's a confusing situation because of how it came to our attention. But if we just take the buoys as an issue unto themselves, one of them has a permit, the other one we have confirmation from the town attorney that it was approved by a town employee and the removal of it would be estoppel. So my feeling is, based on legal counsel, we don't have the right to make any changes as it relates to the buoy, except to enforce their appropriate placement.
I agree with
Well
you.
said.
Yeah, well
Perfect.
said, well said.
And at any time with any approved, permit, if it becomes a navigational hazard, that's a different matter entirely.
So in other
Where it
words,
would not fall under estoppel, where the, request to remove it or enforcement action to remove it would not be because of the improper permitting of it, but rather because of a navigational
so you're
hazard.
saying in the future, navigation?
Yes, and that's not only with them, that's with any property along the lake,
Oh, I didn't-
anything,
I
yes.
wasn't aware of
If
that.
there is some reason or cause for you to find it to be navigational hazard anywhere,
10 years from now, it could come up.
anywhere where suddenly, you know, you're seeing, you know, a lot of congestion, a lot of close calls, a lot of, you know, issues, you know, how that, I don't think it's ever been done.
No.
But you've received that guidance from Nelligan about navigational hazards, and I don't know if it gets documented or through the town's marine patrol, you know, like exactly how that takes, but that could be a separate discussion. But as far as the permitting part of it, you said it.
Is there any
exactly right.
reason why we just simply cannot leave the warnings on and take no action on them?
Well, you can't, there's no reason to have a warning if they're where they're supposed to be.
There are violations that have been sitting on my agenda for the last 7
And-
months.
and
But
it's
those
important-
violations weren't addressed.
Right, and it's important to make the distinction that the two properties you're discussing right now are not formal violations with, you know, and cited as such.
Yeah.
These were just warnings.
They were warnings and the buoys they seem to be, I didn't get out there with a measuring tape, but they seem like they're in the right place.
Right.
Just a quick question to follow back with you on navigational hazards. Are those for a general boating, the general, in a sense, boating community, whether they live there or bring a boat in on a state boat launch? Those buoys can be part of a hazard for all these other people? Do they come into play as a hazard for somebody that is docked in front of it, taking their boat in and out? Is there
Either.
sort of a distinction there?
I think either. I think if it's, you know, boats going by, you know, bless you, that don't necessarily, you know, belong to a property owner, or if, you know, you have a cove where you've always been very mindful of, as you've permitted stuff in the cove, to ask for, you know, the surveyor to draw the littoral boundaries, to make sure, you know, you're not just looking, you know, you're not just taking, you know, a bird's eye view of just that property. You look at it, you know, in relation to the other properties, and, you know, the cove method's drawn out, so you see whether or not, you know, it's crossing a line or where it falls.
So-
And that standard hasn't always been applied. It's only recently been applied with, say, what I've, you know, casually referred to as Trouble Cove, you know, where we had that was the first time that I really saw it, and it's like, yeah, no, that really tells a good picture. And I'm not sure that it's always been applied with every cove.
Right. So in the future, potentially, as a navigational hazard, buoys can be moved around a little bit.
They can
Potentially, if this board approved it, that would ease that
The
congestion.
registration can be,
Right.
a request can be made for the registration, the permitted structure or buoy can, be revoked, you know, but the process that takes, I would wanna check with Nelligan to make sure, you know, we're not going near estoppel. I don't think so. I think he's been on the record of saying that anything that's a navigational hazard, you know, you certainly can take another look at when
Right.
that happens.
In the future, if we need to.
You know,
Okay.
So my sense is from the commission, we'd like to instruct Michael or Pam to remove these warnings.
then it won't be carried on future agendas.
That,
Yeah.
a consensus?
Yeah.
Okay, so do we need a motion to that effect?
Nope, the record will show.
Okay. All right.
Can I ask?
Leanne, you want to ask Michael? to come
Discussion
back?
over on that.
Discussion's over on that.
Yeah.
But I want to bring something up to the commission and Michael and Pam that I've noticed this summer and last summer, especially this summer on the lake, and I don't know quite how to investigate it properly. Maybe it's to figure out whether or not there are some state guidelines for us. But there's increased boat traffic, tremendous increase in boat traffic since the marina came into play and the 40 slips became active. I'm not even sure if all 40 slips are in yet, but however many slips are there has caused for there to be more and more boat traffic, right, in the summers. And last summer and this summer, more and more visiting boats, right, people who don't have properties on the lake, have been anchoring in the lake. And they've been anchoring in ways that I feel are creating navigational hazards. Michael said there's nothing in the regs that say people can't anchor.
Can't anchor overnight, but that's all.
Right, exactly.
You could anchor out in the middle and float and do whatever you want.
I think the only answer to what you're bringing up might be the police patrol boat who can say to somebody, you know, you're stationary in a position where boats are going back and forth and it's not safe and I'd like you to move. I'm just, you know.
And there may be, you know, they may not be drinking Pepsi Cola if they're all anchored in a group. You
Yeah.
know,
But this isn't
You get
any-
into the whole alcohol factor.
But is this anything to do with
Wetlands?
us, really?
No.
I don't
Well,
think so.
No.
No, that's what I'm
Just-
saying. It doesn't have anything to do with
Well, but I think
dock and mooring ordinances, right?
well, the ordinances do discuss safety and,
Right.
and our governance over the use of the lake as it relates to safety. I'm bringing it up because I think I think that this is increasing and I am concerned about safety in the lake because people are randomly anchoring all around the lake and then there are, you know, speedboats and jet skis
I think
navigating
that's
around them and towing people.
Well,
My thoughts just out
would
of the
you,
purview of
would
this
it be meaningful
organization.
to invite somebody from the police department during the winter when we don't have, you know, I mean, they're not gonna do anything now at this point, to have a conversation with them to see if it's a viable conversation or it's a personal concern.
Whoever heads up the Marine Patrol would probably, you know,
Yeah,
it'd
so-
be a good conversation to have the way you've invited Jim Rollins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Asking about the state boating laws for navigation, you know, what counts as people blocking navigation
Yeah.
ways, what can be
What
done
do they
about
look at
that?
when they're out on the water
Right.
patrol?
And
So-
I also wonder, is there a state regulation around, like, the number of boats you can have in a certain, like, acreage of water?
I feel like there's gotta be one.
The number of boats
But
in the lake used to
There
be.
probably isn't.
There was a natural sort of governor that was the size of the boat launch and the parking area, right? Once the parking area was full,
He
no,
still shuts it down.
But
No.
what year did you come to the lake?
when I was 2, which was 52 years ago.
Okay, but you remember, but that marina used to be there then when I was a kid. it
Yeah,
was
but
there.
when Barrett had it, it hardly ever had
Yeah.
any boats on
I
it.
think, I think,
It's
because we,
full of boats.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah, no, I got you.
we entertained the applications from the present owner of the marina. And he has to now push the limit of what he legally is entitled to. I think the state granted him 44 slips,
No, 40.
40 slips.
40. With
Maybe
no
they were
same-day
all
launch.
occupied.
No same-day launch.
Oh, they do same-day launching
And
though.
the state,
And that was part of their special permit with planning and zoning.
yeah.
That
Okay, well,
there's-
they do, I believe they are doing
And,
same-day
and you know,
launching.
the other thing is,
What they do,
more
they-
more people of means are buying onto the lake with more toys and more equipment. And that just increases the amount of vehicles that are out on the water. And I think you raise a good point. Can we at least have a conversation with the police department to see if there's any sense to them becoming involved? If not, then so be it, because I don't think we can.
Well, yeah,
I
and
just
I
don't
think
see it
it's
as part
worth
of our scope.
understanding if there's a state regulation around how many boats
Yeah,
you
but
can
who's
have
gonna
per
enforce
square
it?
acre. The police
And maybe the Highland Lake Association too, the president.
should
or the
come to that
people.
meeting.
They
that's
could-
a good
Well, how do you
And
do
they have
something
no
like that, Mary?
enforcement
Okay, you have,
capability.
you look out in front of your house and there's 7 boats out there. All right, you decide to go out with your own boat, you live there, and now there's too many boats. What are you gonna do there? And then the
Well-
police come over and say, oh, you live here so you can do it?
No,
I
no,
don't
I
think
think it
that's gonna
has,
happen.
I think it has to do with how many get in through the launch.
I think you're absolutely correct there. I think what they have to do is reevaluate what boats are on the lake, how many are permitted for the marina, and then they have to cut down on the amount that can come into the launch.
With all due respect, I just think this is out of the scope of what this
It's out of our
board.
scope.
Yeah, it's out of the scope of what this
It's
board
a
really
planning
is
and
about.
zoning thing.
Somebody
It
wants
might
to
be a
address
zoning,
it.
I'm not
That's the way it
With
is.
regards to zoning, there is one current zoning violation pertaining to boats at the lake. It is not this board's purview, but there is at a property on Meadow Street, or Lake Drive, there has been parking of boats, and the department's suspicion is that those boats are being towed to the lake and launched, and then being stored off-site. We have already cited them for that, noting that that is not a permitted use. It counts as vehicle storage of pleasure vehicles. They can't do that. There's no pathway for them to permit that other than rezoning the property. That did not make the property owner happy, but it's not allowable. That's the one method that I permit
And
this on.
there was one point where several years back, and I want to get back to the agenda, but to the warnings and violations rather, but several years back where a homeowner who didn't even have a house, a structure on the land, was allowing 2 or 3 other individuals to dock their boats in front of that property, but no house there.
He's
So-
handling that one too.
That's a violation for next month.
Okay, there you go.
It's happening again, but
Okay.
I've needed to take a significant amount of time to make sure it gets right, both because the
And
property
then
owner is
there-
litigious and it's difficult to prove some of these things.
Revisit the minutes from
Oh, I
5,
did.
10 years ago,
Yeah.
whenever it was.
Uh-huh, no, I have it from 2012, I built the file,
Yeah.
I was ready to go out, it just, I didn't wanna have it, I didn't have it ready for this month.
Okay, can we move back to the violations?
Let me
Can
say
I ask
something
you a
here first.
question? Pam, I thought that the boat launch was approved for 30,
No,
The
But-
marina.
you're talking the marina, not the
the
launch.
the marina.
I
Okay.
know what
Yes.
you meant.
Was approved for 30,
No.
but they could propose to have up to 40. That was my understanding when we approved it.
They are also storing boats behind across the street, and when a customer wants to use them, they put them in the water and
They
let them
rent
take
them
them
for the
out.
day.
You know.
Yeah, and that's,
No, not
Also-
rental, those are their
but
own.
that's a violation
They're
of their,
think
renting
I
out
made-
those
so that
little
what I'm
we need to
hearing
look into
today.
that.
Well, the renting boats
That's me, that's not you looking into that. That's me
Yeah.
looking into that in one of my other hats for
Okay.
zoning agent. So I'll see if there's same day launching.
They are,
For any of these violations, if anyone ever just wants to provide me with very good pictures that are time-stamped of certain things happening or time-stamped videos, that's the most useful way for me to do it. Because if it's not pictured, if I don't have a timestamp on it, I can't use it as evidence in court because I can't have a good way of like, well, clearly this is from this day. It could be from any time. It could be from 10 years ago.
Can you set your smartphone to times?
I have no idea.
So you can upload it, if you have a social media account, the courts have found that if you upload it to Facebook and you set your setting on private, and that date and timestamp will suffice.
Got it.
and I also think that those pontoon boats that they rent out are totally unsafe in terms of the number of people.
They overload them.
They overload them and they're
Well, that's-
taking
Yeah,
on more.
That's probably state law.
That's police enforcement though.
It is.
Each boat has a tag on it.
Yeah.
Tells how many people.
I
But
know-
anyway, I agree that it's probably none of this in our purview.
Yeah, but it's
But
worthwhile addressing.
insofar as our ordinance does speak to safety on the lake, navigational safety, I think it's worth bringing it up.
I agree, we agree, and
Okay.
we're gonna move ahead and, see if we can set up something with the police department.
And I think that's a great idea. My one last thought is, you don't have to grant any more docks.
Right.
You can let the town get sued to high heaven, but it is ultimately your discretionary power to grant docks. It is your discretionary power to put things on the water line, and we can go through word by word in what people are entitled to. Because last month there was a property owner who came in and said, I'm just trying to get what I'm entitled to with regards to a buoy. They're not entitled to things. They may have them. You have the power to grant them. Whether or not you should grant them to make sure that they have fair access to their water, that you're not devaluing their property unfairly, those are all fair concerns. Many of you are lake residents. Many of you are concerned about making sure that everybody has fair access to the water. But the more we build this up, the more we build up the lake, the more these problems that you have occur. We cannot have our cake and eat it too with regards to development and these beautiful houses that we are approving at the lake that are taking 700 square foot cottages and making them 2,000 square foot houses with additional boat lifts, and also have a pristine natural lake.
You know what, having said that, I think there's been enough documentation from different entomologists, if that's the right word, that have attested to the fact that the lake still is rather pristine with what's going on and what we've, you alluded to, we've approved.
Yes, and the HLWA funding with that is great, and it would be
you know what,
2024 is
the
good.
lake is clean, it's clear. I think a sewer around the lake made a big difference. I think, the actions that, Jim Rollins and his agency are taking are helping. I think homeowners are more cognizant of it, we're more cognizant, but, we have not contributed toward the demise of this lake to any extent at all.
But if you're uncomfortable with adding more, you can pull back. You're allowed to consider that.
I'm just worried about safety. I feel like the lake's becoming pretty, someone's gonna get hurt.
Well, the other aspect of that would be some of the boats that are on the lake are illegal on our lake.
Right.
And that's a
There's
police
lot of
issue,
boats 22 feet.
that's black and white.
Yep.
That's not an opinion, that's, if it is, it
But
is.
getting back to the dock issue, say you allow 200 docks, and then no more docks until, but you could do a waiting list, so when somebody
Yeah, like
takes
limited
out a dock,
water
now you'll be
meters
number
in
one.
dry areas.
Like,
Yeah.
take
How many
it down
houses
now.
on a lake don't have a dock?
How many what?
Houses on a lake don't have a dock, so where are you going?
Very
Not
few.
many.
Just about everyone.
And virtually every house on the lake has a boat,
That's why you buy a lake house.
Okay, violations.
I'll go quick. 215 West Wakefield Boulevard. I hear that it is with the town manager, but that is all I know. I sent him an email asking about whether or not it was going to be brought to the board. I didn't hear anything back. North Main Street. Kevin Elligan is currently working out something with the attorney for the other side to make sure that the structures come down. But no movement on this massive parcel. I've heard nothing from Peter Keefe. He was asked to do the research for it. I need to talk to Peter Keefe. I haven't heard from him in a while. So I'm going to contact him soon. 308 East Wakefield, this is John Sliney, who was looking for his third engineer. Haven't heard anything in the past month. I will call him tomorrow. 713 East Wakefield, I know they're still doing the research on this one because the property lines up in that area of East Wakefield are a mess. 182 Shore Drive, the grass is growing well. I think that this one's pretty much done in terms of violations for the wetland side, but the variant side and all of the planning and zoning stuff is nowhere near finished. East Wakefield Boulevard, Coppler. I haven't heard a thing. I really expected him that he would contact us, considering that was your discretion. I don't have any contact information for him. I can send him a citation for ignoring us for the past 2 months.
That's the guy with the dock?
Yeah, the dock that he
Trouble
basically
Cove?
just put in a couple posts that he replaced in the same position. You said, okay, so just bring in an application. And then he just didn't.
And he agreed?
And he said, well, he kind of huffed off, but yes, I believe he agreed.
Follow up on that, please.
Yes, sir. 257 Colebrook Road. Surveyor Why Not, which is a great last name, completed the field survey at the end of July. He's doing the computer work right now for the topography, all the area around the house, and the wetlands delineation. So that one's coming along. 203 West Wakefield. That, as far as I know, the waterfront violation is taken care of. I got to re-inspect tomorrow for some zoning violations. And then 132 1E is here tonight, and 240 Perch Rock was supposed to be here tonight, but they've submitted an application. So we're chugging through these. We're either getting them done or we're getting them with design staff. And
What's the 240 Perch Rock Trail?
240 Perch Rock Trail, that's Mr. Diadio's
Oh, okay, right,
patio.
okay.
That's pretty much everything from me, with the only other thing that I've been meaning to talk to you about being certain things that you want me making agent determinations on. In general, the way that we do agent determinations here is the application comes before you, you hear it, and you say, Michael, you can handle this. Early on, there was an application from the Zacchios concerning putting in a water pump for their sprinkler system, drawing off the water, and that was the only time that you said, we don't need to see these. And so, because I was going back through all my notes yesterday and I realized that this was a thing of, do you want to see other applications like that? Do you want me to just handle them and agent determination them entirely? Because this is something that sometimes in other municipalities, these things are handled, there are more things handled through agent determination, but I don't want to ever step on your toes. You're the ultimate authority. It's just something to consider of, because sometimes you just see a small application and you see it come before you and you go, why are we even looking at this? And I've seen people say that before. I don't expect an answer tonight, but it's just something to consider. Are there certain parameters with these applications that you want me to handle, just entirely, so it doesn't take up time at meetings?
Sounds like a subcommittee.
It's just something I wanted to raise.
It sounds like
Yeah.
it's easier if one person is confused rather than 9.
I can continue being confused for all of you. I promise you I am during most days.
When are we gonna talk about our subcommittee recommendation?
I said it's on the agenda for next month.
This coming month, there'll be time.
All right, I called around 2 o'clock, he'd already left for the day.
Good, okay, next, Jackie?
There's nothing new to do.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn? Second? Oh, before we adjourn, we have 2 agent determinations on the, what do you call them? The removal of tanks or something.
Yes. So the last thing to note on those was one of them, the one on the one by your house, Jeff.
Yeah.
That's done. The other one, the only thing that I heard, so I called and inquired about this. I know that the property owner had been in contact with Deep about this remediation because the one over on, I want to say 402 East Wakefield, that one was fine, but there was contamination in the other one, and the property owner has been exploring the proper remediation techniques, working with Deep on that, but that is all I've heard.
I'm looking at 608
608, yes.
East Wakefield and, I don't know the second address.
386. It's 608 is the only one that's contaminated, the only one that didn't go smoothly.
So that's finished? Is that finished, 608?
608's done. It's just in remediation. They have to do deep remediation on that. So they all the dirt's in the ground. They took out the tank, but there's contaminated soil, and Deep is handling that contaminated soil. I haven't heard anything else.
Okay, now we have a motion to adjourn and go goodbye.
So moved again.
Okay, second. All in favor, good night.
Question.
Sure.
You talked about the sand.
What are we doing?
I want to talk to you about the sand.
Sure. The meeting is over.
So, right. So,
It's
there's a
not over
difference
if there's a
between-
quorum present.
Okay.
Goodbye.
I'll talk to you later. Talk to you
Go
outside or
talk
something.
to him.
We're gonna go, well, we'll go talk in my office. I'll open up the doors. Let me just bring everything back in.
I was wondering when Jeff's stand was gonna become an issue.
That's where I'm going.
Believe it or not, we're out of here almost an hour earlier than last meeting.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with myself now.
I'm gonna go home and sleep, as opposed to sleeping in my office.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be till like 12 o'clock.
Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Hi, Mary Ann. What's that?
Why, 'cause
You've been hosting all night?
no, you're the gear button.
What is it about those guys talking over us?
Well, you gave me the courage.
It's crazy.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Boldly interrupted. Just like to be so rudely interrupted like that.
Again?
Hey, bye, Jeff. Take care. Thank you. Thanks, you too.
Okay.
Wanna hang here at this table?
Sure. It's true.